The following is a presentation of iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations on LSRTV, the voice of sim racing.
Live tonight from the Daytona International Speedway, LSRTV happy to once again say good evening sim racing fans and welcome to the Superspeedway Cup Series Daytona 250. We're for the 16th time on season 14. We welcome you into the LSRTV broadcast booth. We're happy to be with you tonight. Myself, Evan Pusoko, joined by Mr. Brian Backlund, downstairs the lovely and talented Cisco Scarvoza. Tonight, the second of three races on the opening round of the Season 14 Superspeedway Cup Series playoff. It is Daytona for the second to last time. We hit the World Center of Racing High Banks, and Brian in an interesting spot coming out of just 1 week ago, the first race of the round of 12. Brandon Chiburko with career win number 20. Fun fact on that note, that win ties him with Rodney Watford for the most career wins in series history, but that has punched his ticket into the round of 6. So now we have 11 drivers fighting for only 5 transfer spots between tonight and next week from Talladega. And it's always going to be fun as we start to wind our way into this championship. The cutoff into tonight, 8 points. That's not a lot of comfort.
Absolutely not. And the only person I feel like that should feel a little comfortable coming into tonight is Mark Jorgensen Jr. because he is technically the points leader, and he's got a 14-point gap over the next guy behind him, and he's got the biggest gap over anybody with 27 points back to the cutoff spot. So he's feeling pretty comfortable about that. However, we've seen one big wreck at a track like this can take you from leading the points like he is right now to potentially being in a position where you might miss the next round. So while he's comfortable right now, he's going to have to be very careful tonight, try to get up there and lead as many laps as possible, maybe try to get a win so we don't have to worry about it next week at Talladega.
Yeah, the same mentality that got guys into this championship is the same mentality that's going to move them on. Let's take a detailed look, for that matter, at our playoff standings. Coming into tonight again, Brandon Chiburko with that win from the Talladega Superspeedway. He is in the round of 6. He will race for a championship. Therefore, 2nd through 6th are the only remaining spots, so technically 5 spots left in that championship round. Jorgensen at the top of the points. Then Watford, Piscini, Jason Altmans, and Shada Bakic. Those are your top 6 as of now. Drivers on the outside looking in to the likes of Andrew Berger. Looking outside, he's 8 points below the cut line in 7th. Walker is 12 back at 8th. 13 points back is Corey Henry, 9th position. And then you got Paul Servant, Rod Flag, and Frank Basilia way down the line. Basilia 106 points back. Even Flag at 48 and Servant at 46. I think you're almost in a do-or-die position where you might just have to win, because that may be an insurmountable number in points over 2 races.
Yeah, unfortunately for those 3 drivers, I think they are in a win and only win opportunity to make the next round of this playoff. They're just so far behind. It's going to be extremely difficult to make up that many points over the next 2 races. And for Frank Basilia, he absolutely has to win. That's the only way he's going to make it on to the next round. He's here tonight. He's got an opportunity to do it. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But it's going to be a very exciting race. I can't wait to see what these guys are able to do. And with these guys knowing that a win will lock them into the next round of the playoffs, I imagine as we get close to the end of this thing, these guys are going to get very wild out here on the racetrack.
We talked about what the next couple of weeks and how these rounds are going to work into the championship round. We doubled up for the only time this season, back-to-back races at the same racetrack. Talladega ended the regular season for round number 14. It also kicked off this round with race number 15. So tonight at Daytona, we will go race it once again next Friday evening. Actually, we're going to have a week off, and it will go back at it on the 2nd of June from Talladega. That's going to be the final race in this round of 12. That's when we make the cut from 12 to 6 drivers. It is a very unique playoff for this championship because we're also in a playoff midst on Saturday nights right here on LSRTV at iRacing Live. And Brian, those guys in the USR Truck Series go the NASCAR style playoff from 12 to 9 to 6. And in a one race, 3-driver winner take all. We go from 12 to 6, and there is no winner take all round because that top 6 round is going to feature 3 races. Again, the guy at the top of the points after that is going to be your champion. I almost think this kind of a format a little bit more difficult, especially considering we're talking about plate tracks, and it's always so difficult to really get a grasp on these things. These guys race this week in and week out. They are the best drivers on this service on the plate tracks, but you can never get away from the unpredictability of superspeedway racing.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what makes superspeedway racing so fun, because it is unpredictable. You can have one of the best races of your life going, and then in the blink of an eye, it just falls apart around you because somebody else makes a mistake and you get caught up in the big one. And that's a true problem when you're running for a championship like that, because you can't afford to have those types of mistakes. And like you said, with the way these guys are doing it here on Friday nights, they're going to do 3 races instead of just the one race where it's winner take all. They're going to have to score points and actually be competitive through all 3 of those races. That's going to make things very difficult for all of them. And I have to say, if I feel comfortable about picking any of those drivers that are in the top 12 right now, I think our 4-time champion, Andrew Berger, is probably the one I'd go with. He's certainly got the experience and the know-how to win the championships in this series. I can't see why he wouldn't do it again.
And as we noted when we looked through the points, he is on the outside looking in by 8 points. That's definitely something you could make up over the course of 2 weeks. That's also a position that you can find yourself in where if you don't have a good night this weekend and in 2 weeks' time for the final race on this round, things could go downhill quickly for him. The best way to find out is to let these guys get after it. We've got 250 miles on tap. Qualifying and practice have drawn to a close, so let's go trackside and take a look at our LSRTV starting grid for round number 16. The Drive for Autism Pole Award tonight belongs to Rodney Wofford. Just noted that Brandon Chaburko tied him for most career wins in series history at 20. Wofford, once upon a time, was known as Mr. Daytona. He loves this place. At 48.338, going to put him on pole. Jorgensen right there sitting shotgun. The number 88 will start from second. The number 1 of Chris Bassini, the 87 right now, we're going to make up row number 2. They will start from 3rd and 4th respectively. And Derek Walker, the only first-time winner we have seen this season, will start from P5.
And how about Rod Flagg trying to race his way into the round of 6? He starts P6 here tonight, and behind him in the next row down, starting 7th, is Frank Busilia. He's also looking to try to advance to the next round. A win is likely his only opportunity to advance to the next round. Then we have Glenn Hedrick starting in the 8th position, Corey Henry in 9th, and Paul Servant starting in the 10th position.
Continuing on back to row number 6, Shane McEachin, no time at a practice earlier tonight, but good enough to start in 11th, and Andrew Berger also no time at a practice, qualifying alongside him in the number 12 position. Ramon Evans going to be tonight's unlucky number 13th starting position driver. He'll be joined on row number 7 by 14th place starter Jason Ullman's. Brandon Cruz Monsivais will be 15th.
Scott Warren will start in the 16th position here tonight. Kelly Dahl will start 17th. Then we have Mike Thiel starting 18th. Jared Haggerty is 19th. And rounding out the top 20, Dan Harrington. Then we have 3 more drivers in this field here tonight. Daniel Holloway was the last driver to take a time. He will start 21st. Taking provisionals for tonight's race, Ryan Pyland. And last week's winner, Brandon Chaburko, start 22nd and 23rd here at the Daytona International Speedway.
To look top to bottom at your LSRTV starting grid, let's talk about this Daytona International Speedway racetrack coming in at 2.5 miles in length. It is the shortest of the tracks we see in this Superspeedway Cup Series campaign. Do note that this is the second to last time we're going to be at this Daytona. We will be back here in a little under a month's time under the lights for the winner take all, that season finale, the 3rd of 3 races in the still to come round of 6. We will be back here at Daytona to kick off that round, but it will be Daytona circa 07. That's a completely different track, and we'll have to break all of that down for you when we get to that point. But this racetrack coming in with about 3 stories of 31 degrees of banking, going to take us 100 laps on the dot to get our 250 miles in tonight, and the field open up in 3 and 4 as we get set to come to the green. A little over 10 rows of cars, slightly smaller field than average. Same was the case 1 week ago, and we saw a lot of green flag action. Could see the same tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. I expect to see these guys getting very aggressive at the very beginning of this thing. Then I imagine they'll get spread out, get some single file racing in, and then when we get to the last 25 or 30 laps, it's going to be very chaotic as you see who's going to try to win the race and advance to the next round.
As always, we're so happy that you're with us tonight on LSRTV at iRacing Live. The iRacing.com official pace car down and away in the field, going to be in the hands of the number 7. Green flag flies. Rodney Watford gets us underway from Daytona. It's the second race of 3 in a Superspeedway Cup Series playoff for the round of 12. We're going to get up to the gears for the first time to 3rd and now 4th for the first time at 1 and 2 as we crack 175 miles an hour inside the place to be. Pole sitter brings us at a quarter number 2.
Yeah, everybody trying to get up to speed right now, and the problem for Mark Jorgensen is he really doesn't have any help behind him. He's only got one driver behind him on the outside line right now, and that is the number 87 of Ray Rittenauer. Other than that, everybody has went to the bottom of the racetrack as they're trying to get up to speed. There's a few cars trying to form up behind them about 5 rows back, but they just haven't been able to get up there right now. Everybody single file as they complete lap 1, and it's going to be Rodney Walford leading that first lap here tonight. Got to believe he wants to take his number 1 spot back at the top of the leaderboard for most wins in this series. He's leading here at Daytona.
And as he picks up the bonus points for leading lap number 1, if you're not somebody who joins us week in and week out on Friday nights, first off, welcome, but also you could make sure that you keep track of where those championship competitors are, because if you look just above the windshield on all our chase competitors, that banner is going to be that Super Speedway Cup Series green as opposed to the black. That's a good way to be able to tell when you're watching these guys interacting in a pack who is in the chase and who is not. Single file up at the front of the field, still that 88 trying to hang on, but not enough lifeboats for him. He'll fall to about 7th this time by, but the 94 going to make a play to the outside. Past series champion Frank Basilia outside of the racetrack trying to get an outside lane going. That's going to suck the 88 up to him, and maybe we'll see the top side get something.
Yeah, he's looking for a little bit more help, and it looks like as they go through turns 1 and 2, he's finally going to get that help, and it's from the number 28 machine of Shane McKeechin. He's going to jump up in between him and the number 88 machine of Mark Jorgensen Jr. They're now going to form up bumper to bumper, and for the first time tonight, we might actually see a little bit of an outside line beginning to form. It's here they come on the outside. They're starting to inch the way they're closer to the race lead. Frank Busilia has worked his way up to the outside of the 3rd place car on the bottom, and he's continuing to gain ground on the front runners as they come to the start-finish line this time by to complete lap number 3. He's door-to-door with the 3rd place driver, Frank Busilia, on the move here. I think he's going to need just a little bit more help, though, Evan, if he's going to be able to get up there and challenge the race leader. There's just not a lot of speed right now on that outside line, but now we've got another driver jumping up there to help them out a little bit more. That's, I believe that is the number, I can't read, number 21 machine jump up there with him on the outside.
And you can see the 94 and the 28, first couple of guys in line on the outside. They weren't really pinching the drivers on that inside lane down very much in the corner. Not the same story for the 88 of Jorgensen. See that 88 stepping about a half a car length lower? That's how you get a run on the outside of the racetrack, as you pinch those guys down. You stay tight and maybe a little bit too close. Corey Henry got into it with the 88 in the top of the 4. That could have been bad. Another 94. Basilia up the hill in the tri-oval. Somehow we're all going to hang on to this, but that got crazy at a turn number 4, and 3 wide splitting the difference is going to be Jorgensen, who's going to regain the lead on that outside line as we come at a turn 2.
And that is such a shame for those guys because they were just beginning to make progress on the outside line. They had worked all the way up to the outside of the 2nd place driver of Chris Passini sitting up there in the 2nd position right now. But when that happened, they lost all that momentum and they started dropping back. However, Jorgensen has help in front of him now. This number 12 machine of Corey Henry. They have formed up on the outside line, and they're going to try again on this outside line to see if they can't make anything happen up there. And they are making a little bit of headway here as they begin to push their way towards the front of this pack. They're working on the outside of the 10 car of Rod Flagg, and now back up to the door of the number 20 machine of Derek Walker. And they have a little bit of a help coming from behind as there's a couple of guys that have jumped back up there and begun to form. That's Jason Altman jumping up there as well. And now we have the 21 machine trying to make some move on the outside line once again. So these guys are trying to get the outside line going. It's just going to take a concerted effort if they're going to make it happen. They need a little bit of organization if they're going to be able to get up there and challenge for the race lead.
Yeah, the 21 and the 50 would almost look like they're a little bit scared of commitment at the moment. They have both been kind of dancing between the top and the bottom lane. However, the inside is no longer an option. The 83-year-old Evans has filled the gap. So has the 3 of Paul Servant on his bumper. So now, if you're Hedrick and if you're that 5th-wheeler Jason Oatman, you're going to have to work topside 4 drivers on the outside of the racetrack. I will say that, realistically speaking, the outside is not the best place to be on a restart. You can make it work, but I don't think that these guys were really up to the task of forcing the issue that much this early on. And no doubt, at least on the opening lap of the race, the outside is going to fall backwards. But I don't think we've seen a race in quite some time where it's taken 7 laps to get a challenge for the race lead. Typically, you saw that 88 fall back right about 4, 5, 6 car lengths. Once he gets that run, normally it's somebody like that one at Piscini or the 20 at Eric Walker who will go from the bottom to the outside, jump up in front of him, and then the outside gets a big run. But those guys have stayed on the inside of the racetrack. They haven't been moving up, and so far to this point now is 7 laps complete. Rodney Wofford uncontested in that #1 position.
Yeah, and it's going to stay that way unless the outside line gets some organization, or you see, like we're seeing right here, is the 10 machine of Rod Flagg decides he's going to jump up to the outside line, unless you start seeing some guys move up there and try to take advantage of it. And Rod Flagg just jumped back to the bottom of the racetrack as quickly as he went up there. He decided he just did not want to be up there for very long. And that's going to be the problem right there. If you don't have guys that are going to get up there and stay committed to it, they're not going to be able to get that outside line formed. There's only 5 guys that are out there right now. They're trying to make it work, but without a little bit more help, it's not going to happen. One thing that will help these guys just a little bit is as the guys on the bottom begin to overheat, they're not going to be able to push as long. That's going to give them the opportunity to move forward. And now we see another guy jump to the outside line. That's the #20 machine of Derek Walker. He jumps up in front of Jorgensen, and now they have one more guy up there trying to make moves. Actually, that was a 12 of Corey Henry. I apologize.
So you do see those drivers making moves. The 12 started on the inside of row number 5 at a 9th position, and he'll be about 3rd or 4th as we come through to the corners 3 and 4 this time by. This lead pack still great in size, about 1st through 20th position. Within 1.2 seconds of each other, a couple of drivers a little bit further back. The 3-car set is 2 seconds off. It's Harrington, Holloway, and Haggerty. Other than that, though, everybody is up front and in this lead pack, which is almost 2 by 2 now, top to bottom, with the exception of those first front rows. Again, most often on Friday nights, they're side by side up front for the better portion of the evening, and the deeper back you get in the pack, the more single file and strung out it gets. Not the case tonight, though. That outside line is really trying to work their way up, and I think we got to give some credit to the City Chevrolet who's running P2 right now, Chris Piscini. Every time we come at a turn number 2, where if you're on the outside of the racetrack and you get to make a move, that's where you got to do it. You got to get hooked up, coming out of 2 or coming out of 4, take the run down the bank and use that long chute to try to get some speed. Every time that happens, look right there. The 1 gets to the bumper of the 7 and pushes him. That's instead of being reactive and waiting for those guys to get up to you, he's trying to be as proactive as he can. He can't push, though, forever, and those guys on the outside are starting to make up some time. They picked up about a car length and a half the last lap, and they may be able to challenge now.
And for the first time all night long, and we're 11 laps in, we're seeing this outside line get closer and closer to the race lead. Corey Henry has led the outside line all the way up to the door of Chris Piscini, and now he's trying to challenge the race leader, Rodney Wofford, as they head to 3 and 4. However, he did not get the push he was looking for from Mark Jorgensen from behind, so he falls back about a half a car length in the middle of the corner. This time, though, they get a pretty good run off turn 4. Going to be waiting to see if they can make anything of it. He's inching his way back up to the door of Chris Piscini, but still just not able to get the run that he needs to get up there and challenge the race leader. And to your point, Evan, with Chris Piscini staying committed to the back bumper of Rodney Wofford, that's going to help him be able to maintain this lead for quite a while. It's going to take Chris Piscini deciding he doesn't want to be behind Rodney before we're going to see Rodney really get a big challenge, because as long as he's got that big push from behind, he's going to have the advantage over these guys on the outside line. As it looks like we had somebody move up the track for just a moment, make it 3 wide. That was Jason Altman. He got back in line. But it's going to be very difficult for these guys to make that move, as we now see Corey Henry trying once again off turn 4 to get up there and challenge for the race lead.
Just trying to take a look through this field to see if anybody's really been making a lot of headway, and there's nobody who's really plus 20. Spots problems with the 1 and big problems in front. Caution flag is going to fly, and there goes the field at lap 13.
And that was an absolutely huge wreck coming through the tri-oval. One of the bigger wrecks I think we've ever seen here, and that just looked like it was a bump draft gone wrong. Mark Jorgensen was pushing the 12 of Corey Henry. He pushed him on the left rear, kicked him sideways. He went down into the door of our race leader, Rodney Walford, and chaos ensued from that point on. You see at least half the field, maybe more, got caught up in that wreck. And unfortunately for most of these drivers, they're going to have to use their fast repair very early in this race, a lot earlier than I think any of these guys wanted to tonight.
Yeah, and as you take a look at the replay there, the 12 going into the tri-oval doesn't count as its own turn here at Daytona, but it might as well be. The cars get somewhat light as they come through there, and the 88 trying to push. They had a pretty good run. Again, I think that's the closest we had seen that outside B all night long, and he pushed on that left rear, and when you're making a left-hand turn, you're not hitting him square on that bumper, you're almost pushing that left rear quarter panel out to the right, and that's how you lift the back end up, and he went down and just absolutely hooked the 7. Again, a fantastic start to this race by Rodney Watford. Led it through all 13 laps and gets junked in this thing at no fault of his own, and that was a big mess on the front straightaway. Again, basically the whole field was still in that lead pack, and that's how you tear up race cars early on.
And even worse for Rodney is that he was not able to drive away from the wreck. His car was completely destroyed, and he had to take a tow. So he's going to be sitting on pit road for a couple of minutes and will more than likely lose at least 2 laps waiting to get towed back to where he can go ahead and get that reset. So he's not even going to restart this next restart on the lead lap. He's going to have an uphill climb to get back into this thing and try to get into contention to get up there and get back up there and challenge for the race lead. It's going to be a very tough battle for him and a couple of other drivers I see down on pit road as well. Looks like Corey Henry is down there, possibly just a couple other drivers as well. So these guys are all going to be going a couple of laps down, while the rest of these guys that were able to drive away, like Jason Altman's Mark Jorgensen, I believe the 10 machine was also able to drive away. They're going to be able to come in and get their reset now as you're seeing them come to pit road. They're going to get tires and fuel and a fresh car and be able to get back out there and stay on the lead lap.
Couple of onboards of that one for you. How about pit stops? How about 3 wide on the pit lane? Check this out. Drivers in at lap number 15, and they're 3 wide for the top couple of spots onto the pit lane. They're going to be led down by race leader Mark Jorgensen Jr., who was involved in an accident. You see the car go back to 100%. He is using his one and only quick fix. These drivers are allotted 1 per race, and that's why you see cars that came down heavily damaged going out nice and clean. The 88 get to spend extra time on pit road to get 4 tires. That'll cost him about 3 or 4 spots.
Yeah, but fortunately, it shouldn't hurt him too terribly bad. It's not like he's going to be dropping back and be out of the main pack. He's still going to be up front and be able to challenge for the race lead when it's all said and done. Only a handful of positions are going to be lost there. Looks like Jason Altmans is going to be your winner off pit road, and he too had to get his quick fix for the night. And unfortunately for all these drivers, they now are going to be on pins and needles for the last 85 laps or 80 laps of this race because they can't have another mistake like what we just saw happen, or they will have their nights ended. So it's going to be very interesting to see what kind of strategies these guys play out over the rest of this race. Are they going to stay up front and battle with the race leaders, or will they fall back and ride it out and wait to the end to get up there and challenge for the race lead and potentially for the race win? Very interesting, and we're going to have to wait and see what these guys choose to do.
Obviously, these guys don't go out there racing like they have that quick repair in the back pocket. And again, the multiple angles you saw on that one shows that one was a racing deal. But it happened up front. It happened when the field was tightly packed together. That takes a lot of guys out of this thing. And it was a pretty good opening stint. Again, to that point, it is still, in the grand scheme of things, an early caution flag. Before the 15 lap in marker in this, but we'll get a restart with about 16 or 17 laps complete, depending on when the lights on top of the pace car go out. They're still on this time by, so expect a restart not the next time around, but the next time after that. The light should come off as we cycle back around and complete lap number 16 under the caution flag. But now you almost might see these guys back things down substantially compared to what they did in that first stint, and the armchair quarterback answer would be, well, instead of wrecking your car and then taking it easy, just take it easy out front. But now, because they don't have that little bit of a trick or something up their sleeve as far as getting that quick fix, for all those drivers who have now used it, you get that car damaged and you're going to have to race with that all night long. Sure, if it's not terrible damage, you can come down pit road to repair it, Brian, but once a car gets beat up at all at a plate track, it's not going to be back to 100%. Doesn't mean you can't race in a pack, but it is going to be substantially more difficult to challenge to get a top spot or even try to win this race. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see a couple of different groups start to split up, guys drop to the back, get single file in line, maybe outside the top 10 or so, and those would be the drivers who don't have quick fixes left and obviously don't want to tear up what is quote-unquote their last car.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think we will see that happen, especially for some of these guys that are trying to advance to the next round of the playoffs. One in mind for me would be your points leader coming into tonight, Mark Jorgensen Jr. Yes, he's got a pretty good advantage over the cutoff, which is Andrew Berger. He's got 27 points coming into tonight. However, he does not want to give up that advantage tonight and then have something happen again next week at Talladega that could potentially knock him out. So I think you'll see him run a much more conservative strategy here tonight for the remainder of this race. Try to preserve that car and keep it around for the end of this thing, and then get up there and challenge for the race lead. He's already figured out that with a little bit of help, he can make the outside line work, so he knows that when the time is right, he can get back up there and challenge for the race lead. I see no reason why he won't drop to the back and just hang out for a little while. And the lights are off on the pace car, so next time by, we're going to get back up to speed and go back green here. Jason Altmans will be the race leader with Rod Flag on the outside line. Then we have Mike Field, Mark Jorgensen, and Ryan Pyland, your top 5.
And there's only going to be a total, I say only, 17 drivers scored on the lead lap as we come to this restart. Most, if not all of those drivers either have clean cars because they were fortunate enough to be able to avoid the incident, or they have come down and, as we've been talking about, gotten that quick repair, brought the backup out, and are now on thin ice for the still to come 70, or actually still to come 83 laps of action by the time we come by the start finish line. The drivers laps down. One lap down going to be 18th position Jared Haggerty and 19th Frank Basilia. Basilia still in the box. Heavy damage on that car. Haggerty's caught up with the pack and his car is quick repaired already, it appears. So he would be in a good position to get a lucky dog if we were to get a yellow. The drivers 2 laps down include 20th position Glenn Hedrick, Ray Rittenauer in 21st, Rodney Watford in 22nd, and Corey Henry in 23rd. All of those drivers as well. Clean look at race cars. They're banking on yellows to try to make up some track position and get a couple of wave rounds.
Yeah, absolutely. And for Rodney Walford and Corey Henry, they're in the playoffs right now. They're trying to move on to the next round. They're going to need those cautions to get back within the lead lap so they can try to score some critical points and try to get back up there and challenge for the race win. It is crucial for those two drivers to get back on the lead lap as quickly as possible so they have a chance to get some points out of tonight.
Pace car going to duck in. Let's see what kind of restart and what kind of run going to come out of this one. 17 laps completed as we go back green. No restart on the inside. Altman's caught sleeping. It'll stack up. Rows 2, 3, and 4 behind him, but I don't think it's going to cost him the race lead. 51 is going to be able to keep it to the inside of Flag, and now he'll have a big run in the center of the corner.
Yeah, that restart was really bad for Jason Altmans, but he was able to make up for it right here. And how about Mark Jorgensen Jr.? We talked about him possibly dropping to the back. Well, he restarted 4th, and as they come off turn 2, he's already up to 2nd. He's pushing Jason Altmans down this back straightaway. He's jumped ahead of Rod Flag, who I think for a moment had an opportunity to take the race lead. He just was not able to get the push that he needed to get clear of Jason Altmans. He's now dropped in line on the inside line in 3rd. And then we've got the number 61 machine of Mike Field right behind them. They are single file through much of the top 10 at this point. You've got to look all the way back to, I believe, the 54 machine trying to make something happen on the outside line. Actually, that's the number 22 machine of Brandon Chaburko trying to make something happen on the outside line.
And can't say I'm entirely surprised that we saw the same results on this green flag as we did on a drop of the original American Ethanol green flag tonight. That is the inside with a big advantage, but there's more separation. Guys taking it just a bit easier, not putting it right into the bumper, the guy in front of him right off for the green flag, keeping some space, trying to keep these cars in, going to piece. And again, grand scheme of things is if you try to ride around for just a little bit, not a bad idea. In fact, as we noted, if you were with us 1 week ago, despite the fact that it was the first race of the playoff, these guys did get a lower number of caution flags considered to the average of what we've seen this season. 41 machine, though, not in the camp of drivers who wants to hang out to the inside and to the outside. Ryan Pyland going going to have an opportunity to lead the top. A little bit of a bobble that time, but one courtesy of the 6 to Mike Thiel on the inside of the racetrack, but the outside is there. Strength in numbers lotted up, about 6 drivers total topside. Going to make a lot quicker of an advance to the front than what we saw before.
Yeah, absolutely. These guys are starting to make some headway on the outside line. Chris Passini is already starting to work his way back up to the front. He was sitting in second when that big wreck happened just a handful of laps ago. He got caught up in that, obviously, and had to take his quick fix. He's already starting to work his way back to the front. Just outside of the top 5 as they come to the start-finish line, he's pushing the number 41 machine of Ryan Pilot, trying to give him that run that he needs to get closer to the front and give themselves an opportunity to challenge for the race lead, something we have not really seen much at all tonight. And now here comes Rod Flag in the number 10 machine. He pulls up in front of Ryan Pilot. He's going to try to take advantage of the speed that he saw coming from the outside. And Chaburko's in the wall. We have a wreck in the back. Brandon Chaburko goes around off turn 2, back under caution here at Daytona. And it looks like he collected at least one driver. The number 99 machine of Kelly Dahl got collected, possibly a few others as well. Looks like he made contact with the number 83 of Ramon Evans to start this wreck. And we have another pretty big wreck here on the back straightaway.
It's very similar to what we saw earlier when we saw Frank Basilia get loose in the tri-oval move at the racetrack, and the 83 pushed up a little bit. Chaburko, typically somebody who pinches the guys down on him a little bit tighter than the average driver, and it bounced up into the fence. It kind of whipped off of that outside fence. Oftentimes, you'll get stuck on that outside wall, not be able to get off it. For him, he bounced back down. Beautiful piece of driving, by the way, by that 21 machine of Glenn Hedrick. He was right in the path of the 22 and just kind of sidestepped around it. Unfortunately, the next driver in line was Kelly Dahl. 99, really nowhere for him to go. He just made that move for the outside to the inside of the racetrack, and 22 came right down in front of him. Nothing he could do. I think maybe the 76 got a piece of damage, and maybe the 3, but more or less it's just those 2 cars who got all the heavy contact.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to have to go back and look at the first wreck. I don't believe Brandon Chaburko or Kelly Dahl were caught up in that first wreck. I'm almost positive that Chaburko was not. So I know that he should be able to get a quick fix and get back out there with a clean race car. It's going to be interesting, though, for Kelly Dahl. I'm not really sure. I'm going to have to go back again and look and just see what happened with him. Looks like he does have a fresh car coming off of pit road right now. So I think he might have been clear in that first wreck as well. However, this is 2 more drivers that have already used their quick fix just 22 laps into this race.
And a second big piece of heavy contact that we've seen tonight puts us under the caution flag. Lap number 22 of 100 tonight for the Daytona International Speedway. Jason Altman's clear out in front. The Monster Energy Ford going to lead through a cycle of caution flag pit stop. So while we pace for the second time tonight, we'll take our own opportunity to toss the yellow flag, step aside for a brief moment, and come back to Daytona in just a few. You're watching LSRTV's continuing coverage of the Superspeedway Cup Series on iRacing Live. Still plenty more to come from the second race of the playoffs right here when we come back.
Introducing a whole new form of racing to the best online racing simulation in the world. This is Dirt Racing on iRacing.com. Race online at some of America's most legendary dirt tracks, including Eldora and Williams Grove. iRacing is the premier online racing game featuring NASCAR, IndyCar, sports cars, and now World of Outlaws, the leading sanctioning body for dirt racing. iRacing is easy to use and features a centralized ranking system to make sure you have the best experience at any skill level. With a massive inventory of high-precision laser scan tracks and cars with an unmatched dedication to quality and detail, iRacing gives you the most authentic online racing experience available. Thanks to iRacing's dynamic track system, developed specifically for dirt racing, tracks change over the course of a race, just like your favorite dirt track on a Friday or Saturday night. From a slick racing groove all the way up to the cushion, iRacing's dirt tracks deliver non-stop racing action. Partnered with the World of Outlaws, iRacing is your source for the most authentic dirt racing experience available, featuring 4 brand new tracks and 11 new cars, including street stocks, Legends cars, late models, NASCAR trucks, winged and non-winged sprint cars, with much more on the way. Join the Dirt Revolution on iRacing.com and start slinging mud today.
And we're back live from the Daytona International Speedway, where the lights are back out on top of the iRacing.com official pace car restart due up at quarter distance in tonight's Daytona 250. Happy to have you back with us for LSRTV's continuing coverage of the Superspeedway Cup Series. It is the second race of 3 in the round of 12, the opening round of the Superspeedway Cup Series Season 14 playoff. Brandon Chiburko with a win 1 week ago has punched his ticket into the round of 6. There are 11 drivers fighting for the remaining 5 spots between tonight and the final race of this round in 2 weeks' time from Talladega. Going to be a restart, so again, right at quarter distance, Rod Flag in control. A couple of big wrecks have really shaken up the running order in this one. Going to be Jorgensen, Altman, Steele, and Piscini inside of the top 5 with 17 cars total on the lead lap. Green flag flies underneath the flag stand. We come, we go back at it once again. Second time in a row, top side at the line.
Yeah, Mark Jorgensen got a really good restart. Now you see him pinching the 10 of Rod Flag, trying to take away some of the aerodynamic advantage that Rod's going to have when he gets the push from behind. However, as they get to turns 1 and 2, you see the inside line like it has on each of the previous restarts. It has taken the advantage here as they get single file at the front. First 2 cars single file. Jorgensen looking for some help. He's got some help from the 61 machine of Mike Thiel as they work down the back straightaway. But once again, that inside line just seems to have the advantage, at least for now. Here comes Jorgensen still trying to make something happen, but with just 1 driver behind him with a push, he's just not going to have it. And we now see Rod Flag, Jason Altmans get ahead with Chris Piscini pushing along on the inside line as well. The front 3 getting ready to be single file as they come back to the stripe.
And the 88 trying to find a spot in line. Tight squeeze there. McKeechan either moved up or the 88 came down. There was a gap. And the Nationwide Chevrolet is not going to end up in it. So it seems like no matter how many times we wad up cars, who restarts where, it's always Jorgensen leading on the outside of the racetrack and falling back. But he likes being up top at least, but he's not in front and leading this race. That right now is Rod Flag's position. Biggest mover to this point tonight. How about Daniel Holloway? Haven't mentioned the driver of the 26 Chevrolet so far tonight. Besides really top to bottom of the grid, he's plus 15 and looking to get inside of the top 5 for the first time tonight. Looking for him to maybe go topside with Walker. Both of them have been kind of peeking up there a few times.
Yeah, absolutely. A great run for the number 26 machine as of right now. And back to what happened with Jorgensen and McKeechan about a lap ago, he's going to be really careful at this point. He does not have the quick fix. If he was to have made that move and it went badly for him, that could have ended his night, because obviously he's not going to come back in and be able to get a brand new car once again. He's got to be very careful with still well over half a race left to run, not to make too many aggressive moves that could potentially take him out of this thing. That was a move I'm not sure I would have made at this point. However, now we see Shane McKeechan pull up in front of him, trying to take advantage of them having a couple of cars up there for help. He slots back to the back or front bumper of the 88 of Mark Jorgensen, and now with a big run off turn 4, he starts working his way forward, and we have a challenge for the lead for the first time tonight. We see the second place car jump up. That's Jason Altmans. He's going to take advantage of the run and now goes for the lead as they head to turn 1. He's got the advantage. Is he going to be able to get clear? Not quite. He's got to stay up on the outside line at least for a little while longer, but we have our first challenge for the race lead here tonight, and Jason Altmans is going to be the man leading the charge.
And I think he should be able to get it this time down the Daytona super stretch, because the support from the 1 just isn't there. On the back of the 10, and a nice easy move to the inside of the racetrack. New race leader, lap number 29, Jason Altmans may have been the first pass for the race lead so far tonight. Extremely unconventional for what we typically see in this series, but the 10 wants to pay him back. Nice move to the inside and the outside by Ron Flag. I'm not sure if it's going to work, though. If you're going to go from anywhere, it's that second spot in line, and he gets enough of a run that he's going to do it. Ron Flag right back to the point. That lead, courtesy of the 51, only lasted about 3/4 of a car length. I wasn't sure it was going to work, though, Brian, because we did it into the tri-oval, and the tri-oval, as I noted, almost a quarter in and of itself, really kills momentum on the top side of the racetrack. The back straightaway is where you want to make a move like that. Flag, though, had good enough run and had a good enough push, courtesy of Akichin, though, to get the job done, and now we're right back where we started.
Yeah, when Rod made that move, Chris Passini wasn't close enough to really be able to help Altmans for that split second where Rod was able to jump up to the outside line. And so he was able to make that move and make it happen so easily just because there just wasn't enough time for Passini to close into the back bumper of Jason Altmans and be able to give him that assistance that he needed. Now we see, however, the field has went single file through pretty much the entire field. Out of nowhere, these guys have dropped single file. The first car that's poking out right now, possibly looking at jumping to the outside line, was Brandon Chaburko. However, he got back in line. So as quickly as these guys were battling for the race lead, they went single file. And now Jason Altmans, for a moment, looked like he was hoping to get some help. He looked to the outside, but he had to slot back in when he realized nobody was going to go with him. And now we're waiting to see if anybody's going to get up there and try to make a challenge for the race lead. Once again, we see Chaburko jump up there. There's a little bit of contact back between him and the 61 of Mike Thiel. And now we see the outside line beginning to form as the 26 of Daniel Holloway is the first car out there.
And a lot of contact between the 26 and the 61 just behind Chaburko. They nudged about 2-3 times into and out of the tri-oval at about 195 miles an hour. They're going to single file things out, though, and including up front now, single file all the way through, I would say, the top 8 or so, but a move for the race lead, at least thinking about it. The 51 machine tried to go high, but again, where he went to make that move was so far down the back straightaway, I don't think it would have worked out for him. Either way, the 88's waiting for either somebody to come up in front of him for him to push, or, as you see the 28 do, somebody to get in line behind him and push him. So 28 seems to be the caboose so far today on the outside of the racetrack. McEachin doing a lot of pushing. No real challenge for the race lead that time, but at least 2 cars now mixing things up again, once again on the outside.
Yeah, absolutely. And how about the number 76 of Scott Warren? He's made a charge up through this field. He was one of the drivers caught up in that first wreck, had to take his quick fix. I believe he got a little bit of contact in the second wreck as well. And now he's trying to challenge up here in the top 5 as well, as he slots in behind Mark Jorgensen on the outside line, trying to give him a help. And then he decides to get back to the inside line. So Jorgensen has been left out there all alone once again. Now it looks like maybe Shane McEachin's going to try to get up there and help him, as he has most of the night. He's jumped up there and given assistance when he could. However, he just wasn't able to get up there this time. He's going to stay on the inside line. They are single file all through the front except for Jorgensen. And now we see once again a little bit of help from behind with that 76 machine. A couple of guys willing to get up there and help for a little while, but Jorgensen's going to need help for more than just a half a lap or so if he's going to get up and challenge for the race lead. He seems like he's the only driver that's committed, but he's the only driver that also gets hung out, as now we see Jason Altmans jumping back up in front of him. He's going to get a big run and take the lead as they head to turn 3.
And not without a moment to spare. Nice move, courtesy of the 51, with a tip of the cap to the 80 to Jorgensen. He stayed on that bumper into the entrance at corner number 3. It's a little bit of a dicey place to make contact on the left rear. We've already seen that go haywire once tonight with that 88 machine, but it was good enough to put Altmans to the race lead. And now we're back in that groove that we're used to seeing. Guys constantly swapping out up front for the race lead. But again, I don't think that you can realistically deny that that wreck earlier had an impact on this race, Brian. You would think, and I predicted, to be fair, that guys would back it down a little bit and take it a little bit easier. What it did do is by somewhat minimizing the amount of cars on the lead lap, the lead pack went from about 20 or so cars to where it is right now at 12. There's more space, and when you're not as tightly crammed together like sardines in a can, 2x2x2, and with nowhere to go, there's a little bit more ability to move from the inside to the outside, and I think that's what is in part applying to the little bit of intensity that's picking up here up front, at least increasing the passing we're seeing in this battle up front.
Not only that, but there's less cars breaking up the air as well, which makes it a little bit easier for you to find the draft that you're looking for to try to make the moves that you need to make. And I think we've seen that at the front, because for a half a lap or so, these guys can jump up to the outside line, get the run that
oh, there they go! That one was called incorrectly. Caution flag is going to come out courtesy of Chris Passini. It broke up out of nowhere, headed down the back straightaway, and the one was, I believe, trying to make some sort of a move from the inside of the racetrack to the outside. It was a very abrupt maneuver, so I don't think it was something as simple as, you know, the cars just kind of drifting up and down the hill, but I think Passini was trying to go up. It may have been courtesy of a tap from behind by Shane McKeechin, but he just turned up the hill and he was not clear. And he hooks Jorgensen to the inside of the racetrack. Ron Flag going to go for a ride with him. 3 drivers going to be involved in that one, and the caution flag comes out.
And my view of that is that Chris Passini got a push from behind from Shane McKeechin, and that just upset his car a little bit, shoved him up into the left rear of Mark Jorgensen, and then that just caused the wreck that we saw happen on the back straightaway right there. However, for most of these front runners, they did not get any significant damage other than Rod Flag. I think he bounced it off of the inside wall. But for Chris Passini, Mark Jorgensen, 2 drivers that have already used their reset, they are actually okay. And it actually looks like Rod Flag, what an incredible job he did. He never stopped driving that car as he kept it off the inside wall. Very impressive on his part. So for all 3 of these drivers that got caught up in that wreck, it does not look like their cars are too significantly damaged. They are certainly going to have some repairs, and unfortunately not having the quick fix, they're going to have to work on those cars on pit road, but they should still be able to keep up with the main draft.
Yeah, they all did a really good job of, avoiding getting into the inside fence. So often we see people spin down the back straightaway and it gets out of hand, and it would have hurt if you hit the inside where those guys were, because those tires were there, and you can plow into those and get stuck. That could kick you up on your lid. So not only that, but they also avoided overcorrecting, spinning back up into traffic, and that was a relatively minor 3-car accident to bring out a 3rd caution flag of the night. Could have been a lot worse, such as the first accident we saw earlier on. Race leaders, though, going to come down pit lane once again under the caution flag for another cycle. A yellow flag stops race leader Jason Altmans brings us in. He'll go right side tires only on his car, and he'll be the first driver out on those 2 tires, but not the first driver out overall. Looks like Scott Warren beat him out of the pit lane to 76, went with left side tires, running into number 2 position, so passed him up.
Yeah, and that should move the number 76 machine of Scott Warren into the race lead for the first time tonight. A very nice rebound for that driver, considering he was caught up in each of the first 2 wrecks. So very nice for him right there. We saw Mike Thiel was the next driver off pit road. Then how about Kelly Dahl? He also comes out inside the top 5. So a couple of these drivers having a pretty solid night here tonight. However, a couple of our playoff contenders having a pretty rough night, as we're still waiting to see if Rodney Walford and Corey Henry can get back on the race lead lap and challenge for the race lead here in the second half of this thing. They're still a lap down, at least as of right now, which is going to make it very difficult for them to get up there and challenge, sitting back in the 17th and 19th position respectively. And actually, I see Rodney Walford, looks like he's going to get the waiver and get back on the lead lap this time. So now, for the first time in a while, he's going to be able to challenge some of these guys and maybe try to get up there and get back to where he was at the beginning of this race.
Caution flag going to be good news for those drivers who were laps down from previous accidents. We noted after the first big one that those would be the small selective group of drivers that would actually be hoping that we picked up some more caution flags as the night went on. And Wade buys under the yellow for Ronnie Wofford, Glenn Hedrick, Frank Basilia, Corey Henry, Jared Haggerty, and Ray Rittenauer with the second. All of those drivers going to be raved around the field, and they will, if they were 1 lap down, they're going to join up back onto the lead lap, so that'll be the 7 to 21, the 12 to 87, and if they were 2 laps down, going to be able to make their way to being only 1 lap down. To this point, though, only 1 driver has brought it behind the fence, and it just happened. Brandon Cruz Montsevice, in the number 54 machine. It was 3 laps down, brought it down to the pit lane, took it behind the fence, and left the session. So the 54 going to be the first DNF of the night. Other than that, despite the fact that there are cars out there with damage, and there are cars out there a couple of laps down, nobody else is officially out of this race.
Yeah, and that speaks dividends to how well these drivers are able to keep their cars clean, and how well the crews are able to work on the cars once they have a little bit of damage to get them back in there and keep them in contention for a shot at the win and at a shot at just finishing the race. So very impressive by all these drivers, as right now we're showing 20 drivers out of the 23 still on the lead lap. They, a couple, of course, got the wave around this most recent caution with all the leaders coming to pit road, but they stayed in it. They kept their cars clean through the last couple of cautions, and now they have an opportunity to get up there and challenge once again for the race win, which is a very important thing for a couple of these guys. Again, with this being a race where if you win, you automatically advance into the round of 6. These drivers that are racing for that opportunity definitely want to try to have a shot at it when we get to the end of this thing.
Ponce Device is going to bring the 54 back onto the racetrack, interestingly enough. So now we have no drivers officially out of this race. I wasn't expecting the 54 to come back because he manually disconnected from the session. Oftentimes you might see somebody have some sort of a connection issue. They'll drop out of the session. They'll get back in. It'll cost them a couple of laps, but the 54 drove it behind the wall. Apparently not using up the 5-minute repair clock or whatever you want to call it as. Came back into the session. He's back on track. A couple more laps down. But I think that puts us back in a position where everybody who started this race, all 23 of them, are still on track at lap number 40. 4/5 of the way as we come to the restart, just 10 laps away from crossing the halfway point in tonight's Daytona 250. When we do so, we'll take a look at your iRacing midway race break, let you know what happened in the opening 50 laps, let you know what is to come in the closing 50 laps in tonight's Superspeedway Cup Series playoff race from Daytona. And from that point, we'll start counting ourselves down to the end of this one. But again, this now shuffles up the running order again. The top 8 in line for this restart, Brian, all started outside of the top 10, so they've had the benefit of avoiding accidents, keeping the car in one piece. Now's their opportunity to do something with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point, the top 8 all started outside the top 10. There's only one driver in the top 10 that started inside the top 10, and that's Derek Walker. He started in the 5th position. Everybody else started no better than 11th, and that's Shane McKeechin. So you can see the parity that we have had here tonight. The comers and goers, with all the guys that started up front having to find their way at the back right now. Rodney Walford sitting back there in 15th. He was our pole sitter. And Mark Jorgensen started on the outside front row. He's back in 13th right now. Certainly a long ways to go, but they have their work cut out for them in the second half of this thing if they're going to get back up there.
Pace car going to duck down again. 40 laps complete. 60 laps to go. Going to be the 3rd time we extinguish the caution flag and go back to green flag racing conditions tonight from Daytona. Green flag flies back on the loud pedal. A bit of a tight squeeze on the outside of the racetrack, but everybody really compacted in line to quarter number 1. Nice and tight as we head off into the quarter. Double file, top to bottom, outside, doing a good job of hanging tough.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the first times tonight as we come off turn 2 that the outside line's still somewhat competitive, and you see Jason Offman's trying to get up there and challenge the race leader. He's got help from the number 99 of Kelly Dahl as they work down the back straightaway, but that's the only help he's got. Right now, it's the only help he needs as he's side by side with the race leader of the number 76 of Scott Warren. He's got the advantage as they head to turn 3. However, now the inside line starts to inch ahead, and he's looking for that help from behind once again as they come off turn 4. However, this time it looks like he might have the run he needs. No, Scott Warren's going to be able to hang on as they come back to the stripe. It's going to be a drag race. Looks like, I believe, Scott Warren might have just barely won that battle to the race lead, but he does lead once again here at Daytona as they head to 1.
Would have been a hell of a finish. 3 1,000s, and there they go again. Kelly Dahl into the outside fence. Big wreck at 1 and 2. Caution flying is out once again.
And that was just another situation of racing really tight going into the corner. It looks like the driver on the inside, the number 61 of Mike Thiel, might have slid up the racetrack just a little bit, got into the left side of Kelly Dahl, kicked him sideways. He was not able to catch the car. When it corrected, he went back hard into the outside wall, and then everybody that was right behind these guys just had nowhere to go and piled in, including a couple of our playoff contenders. I saw Mark Jorgensen get caught up in it. Rodney Walford's got contact in that again. I believe Chris Bassini got a little bit of contact. How about Corey Henry coming to a dead stop, though? That would be an interesting onboard if we could get it, because he somehow managed to come to a complete stop and not hit a single car as all this was going on in front of him.
And I think what happened is that Anidon was just following the 51 in front of him because they were 2 wide in front of him, so he was going to follow the 51, assuming the 61 was following the 76, and the 61 was about 3/4 of a car length off of the inside and gets him in the left rear quarter panel, turns him sideways. There's just no opportunity for you to be able to hang on to that one. The 99 gets junked. The car that he got into in that one in the 61 drives away. Very often, that's how things happen at the plate tracks. And this one cannot be blamed on me. If it happened about 5 seconds later, you might have been able to, Brian, because I was literally just about to mention that. Remember how Kelly Dahl was caught up in that second wreck, had heavy damage, and now he's running up front? Well, the bad news for him, as well as many of the other guys that have involved in an accident, and now you're starting to talk about your second hit. And you're not going to have a quick fix to be able to get things touched back up. And that could be a night-ending race for a handful of drivers.
Yeah, and I think Mark Jorgensen is one of those drivers on that list right now. He has heavy damage to the number 88 machine. I believe he might be able to stay in this race. However, without having that quick fix, he's not going to be able to stay with the main draft. He has a significant amount of damage to that car that most certainly is going to take quite a while on pit road to get damage repaired. I also look at Rodney Walford. Doesn't look like his car is too bad, but he's got a lot of rear end damage that's going to take a little bit of time to fix, which could also play into his aerodynamics a little bit. Looks like Rod Flagg is back on pit road as well. So quite a few of our front runners that we have talked about most of the night have already used their quick fix because of the big wreck we had in the beginning of the race, and now sitting on pit road again, this time without the quick fix, having to actually work on their cars and try to get the damage repaired the normal way. It's going to be very difficult for these guys to stay in it, and unfortunately for Mark Jorgensen, it doesn't look like he's going to hang on to that advantage that he had coming into tonight with having that big points lead. He's going to have his work cut out for him next week at Talladega.
That is the 4th caution flag so far to this point tonight, and just stay a little bit shy of the halfway point. We'll cross it when we come back and when we go back under green flag conditions, but we'll take another opportunity to step aside for just a minute. Plenty more to come tonight from Daytona, with some pretty big chase implications in the championship standings. You're watching the Superspeedway Cup Series on LSRTV at iRacing Live. Back to Daytona Beach when we return.
Really enjoy dirt racing. Feels good to get in the car, and we have great cars and engines and things at KKR, so it's nice to drive a fast sprint car.
Couple of separate lines developing, 3 wide action on a turn 2. Craig Kinzer, Casey Kane, and Kieran Pittman going at it.
I think the differences between NASCAR and the sprint races on dirt is just a much different mindset. The way you drive your cars, the setup, the feel you're looking for. I think one of the hardest things to tell as a fan is when you're watching a race, whether it's a NASCAR race, a dirt race, is just what's really going on in the car. With iRacing, you can get the way that the track's changing, which they've done a great job in how the track changes throughout the night or throughout the race, just to try to capture it and let the fans play it and realize, like, man, there's actually a lot going on, and you can't always see that when you watch a race. So I think it's pretty neat. It's, enjoyable for me, but at the end of the day, it's actually much of a simulation, and there's a lot of ways that you can learn from that. And, early on, it was neat to look at the Cup tracks that I was going to, places that I had never been. So I think it kind of gives you a head start leading into a weekend. It's pretty real life, and that's pretty neat.
Going back to the Daytona International Speedway, the lights back out on top of the iRacing.com pace car. Restart due up 4 laps shy of the halfway point. When we get to that point, we'll talk through our iRacing Midway race break, and that means we start to creep in on the home stretch in this one. We begin to no longer count up. We'll start to count down to the end of this one. That, though, going to have to come off of a restart. More big carnage just before we step aside. It means that we're left with only 15 cars at lead laps and a lot of big playoff heavy hitters with damage and maybe even out of this race. Only 46 laps into it. Pace car down and away, though. Let's see what the 76 of Warren can do for the front row. Not a lot. Green flag flies and blown out of the water by the outside. Jason Altmans is going to trot to the race lead and maybe the one as well.
Yeah, how about that? An amazing restart for both Jason Altmans and Chris Bassini, and it's going to slot them into the race lead. They go to the inside line, now take control of that inside line, and it leaves them with Corey Henry trying to challenge on the outside here with help from the number 82 machine as they come off turn number 2. That's Dan Harrington trying to give him a push down the back straightaway. He's a couple laps down up here challenging inside the front runners now, seeing if maybe he can't get up there and get his lead lap back the old-fashioned way. How about Frank Busilia as well, trying to do just the same thing? He's 4 laps down right now. They've started working their way towards the front as they come off 4. Maybe trying both of these guys to work a little bit of strategy, see if they can't get a couple laps back the old-fashioned way.
And if you're on the outside, you're kind of forced to fight. Somebody, might be able to say, okay, we just saw a lot of big accident. It's been a rough opening 46 laps. Let's take it easy for a bit. But if you're restarting on the outside, you got to fight for your life. It's either you force your way up front, battle for the race lead, or you find a spot in line. If neither of those options work, you're going all the way to the back. And in this context, that's going to put you much deeper. There's only 7 drivers on the lead lap that are in this lead pack. There's 14 total. But this lead draft consists more than just of those lead lap cars. So you're going to fall to only 7th spot or so, but you might be about 12th or 13th in line, and that's going to put you in a really tough situation. So the 82 on the outside of the racetrack with the 94 machine trying to do something to keep themselves up on the outside of the racetrack and really fighting for what would be a lucky dog spot or a wave around for those two, just trying to be in the mix. Meanwhile, as you look for the actual battle for position up front, nothing going on. Altmans, Bassini, and Warren going to run 1, 2, and 3. I'll tell you what, it was not a very good restart for the 16 machine. Brian, could have worked out a lot worse to him, though. He's still in 3rd.
Yeah, absolutely. But now he's got challenge from the number 12 of Corey Henry as they work through 3 and 4. Corey decided to pull up in front of those 2 lap cars and see if he couldn't take advantage of them trying to make the outside line work. And as they come off turn 4, it looks like here goes the number 76 machine now of Scott Warren trying to get that race lead back that he gave away just a couple of laps ago on the restart. He's got a big head of steam as they head to turn 1. He's past Chris Bassini. Now he's door to door with Jason Altmans as they head to the corner. They're approaching a lap car as they get through the middle of the corner. You have to wait and see what happens with that. That could play a factor in who gets the advantage off turn 2. Now, though, we see Scott Warren trying to pinch down the inside line as they approach that lap car. It looks like it's Brandon Chaburko, and he's going to heed the inside lines to those leaders. And now Scott Warren goes to the lead as they head to turn 3.
And doing the right thing as a lap car to get up and get out of the way and let these drivers filter on through. This time by 50 laps complete, 50 laps to go as a battle for the race lead at the cross flag. Scott Warren back on the offensive. He'll get it at the start-finish line, and I think not only that, but he should be able to get the lead back. Yes, he does. Slides back to the inside, and maybe even just for a moment, all is right in the world as that number 16 machine is going to be able, the 76 of Warren is going to be able to fight back and now get to that number 1 spot back on the inside line.
Yeah, absolutely, but he's got a big challenge from behind as Jason Altmans is trying to make something happen. Here comes Corey Henry, Chris Bassini, then we've also got those couple of lap cars, Dan Harrington and Frank Busilia, still trying to find their way to the front to see if they can't get their laps back. Everybody shuffling for the lead position right now as they come back to the start-finish line. Jason Altmans, we've seen him go up and take advantage of the outside line quite a few times to take the race lead. He's going to have to wait for a little bit of help from behind before he's going to be able to make that move again because the outside line has begun to stall just a little bit, but you had better believe if they start making a run, he's probably going to pull up and take advantage of it and try to go to the race lead once again. He's done it quite a few times here tonight. No surprise at all if he tries it again.
So as they trek down the back straightaway, let's take this opportunity now that we've crossed the halfway point in tonight's race to take a look at your iRacing Midway Race Break, brought to you by iRacing, the leading online racing simulation developed from the beginning as a centralized racing and competition service. iRacing organizes, hosts, and officiates races on virtual tracks all around the world. And in the fast-paced world of esports, iRacing is a one-stop shop for online racing with officially sanctioned series from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, World of Outlaws, and more. 52 laps complete. Scott Warren is your race leader at the Daytona International Speedway, joined by Jason Altmans and Chris Piscini, working the inside of the racetrack 2 and 3. Rodney Wofford was scored 4th the last time by, lose a couple of spots this lap. 5th is Corey Henry. Ramon Evans runs in 6th. Mike Thiel runs in 7th with Daniel Holloway at 8th. Now you're looking at the first driver outside of that lead pack, 8 seconds back in that number 8 position. Paul Servant runs 9th. Ray right now, our final driver, top 10.
And right now, sitting in the 11th position, Ryan Pylan, about 9 seconds behind with Ray Rittenauer right now. They're sitting back there in the 11th position. Glenn Hedrick is sitting in 12th, and the last car currently on the lead lap, he's actually about to go a lap down. Martin Jorgensen sits 13th with heavy damage on that machine, just trying to slide around here and see if he can score some points in the closing stages of this thing. Andrew Berger is your first car, 1 lap down in 14th, and he's got Rod Flag right behind him in 15th. Brandon Chaburko is 16th. Jared Haggerty is 17th. Then we have Shane McKeechan, 18th. Dan Harrington, 19th. And Brendan Cruz Monteveos is 20th. 3 more drivers in this field here tonight. Frank Busilia is 21st. Kelly Dahl and Derek Walker wrap up this 23-car field here tonight at Daytona. And that has been a look at your iRacing Midway Race Break. For more information on the wide variety of sim racing possibilities online, visit iRacing.com to sign up today. For a limited time, you can now visit iRacing.com/World of Outlaws and take advantage of some exclusive promo codes and get yourself on iRacing with a 1-year membership for half off, or simply give it a try with a 3-month membership for less than $5. Again, that's iRacing.com/World of Outlaws. We're back here at the hour with the action at Daytona. Jason Altmans is still your race leader. Scott Warren's right behind him. They've got single file at the front, Evan. Not a lot of action going on up front. Got to imagine these guys are just trying to get settled in for the second half of this thing.
You know, we dropped the driver from up front, too. You might have saw it on the corner of the screen right as we started to take a look at the standings, but it was problems with Jared Haggerty. Here in the number 6 may have lost the screen or had some sort of an issue with his sim, because that car did not turn going into the quarter. It smacked the wall. He locked it to the left, parked it down in the grass, and sat there for quite some time, I assume, to be able to get that screen back up and running, which may have been the problem for him. But that driver has now fallen out of the sim, just received a throughput fall to an unacceptable level. So a connection problem for Jared Haggerty takes him out of this race after he was running with those guys up at the front of the field. We told you he was 17th at that halfway point. He'll probably fall to 21st or lower, depending on how long it takes him, if he even decides to get that car back on track. It'll be multiple laps down, best case scenario, regardless of the fact. But again, yeah, with these guys up front, 56 laps now complete, about 10 laps off for the most recent restart. Single file amongst 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. That's it. Again, only 6 lead lap cars in this lead pack. There is a secondary pack that is losing a substantial amount of time per lap. And it's a 6-driver lead pack versus a 4-driver secondary pack. But at that halfway point, 5 laps ago, I noted it was an 8-second differential. Now it is 15 seconds. Back to Daniel Holloway in 7th, and he's got Paul Servant, Ray Rittenauer, Ryan Pylan riding with them. So they are losing time to the point where I think they're almost at risk if this is to go green to the end of losing that lead lap status. But not only that, I think that they're falling so far off to the back of this one that they have to hope for some sort of a caution to bring them back into it. And I'm not sure how much damage is playing into that, and how much just having less cars is playing into it. But they're quite a ways back now.
Yeah, they're losing about a second a lap at this point. They just do not have the speed that they need to keep up with the race leaders. Actually, that time they lost about a second and a half. So they're certainly at risk of falling a lap down if this thing stays green, because they just don't have the speed. And I think it's a combination of damage and not having enough cars. As you see, there's only 6 lead lap cars in the front pack. There's about 10 cars total up here in this lead pack, and having that many more cars than the group of 4 that we see back there, that's going to certainly raise the speeds up quite a bit and give them the advantage as far as getting around here fast is concerned. And now we're starting to see that outside line begin to form up. It's not a race leader, though, that's challenging on the outside line. It's Frank Busilia, who sits currently 4 laps down in the 20th position. He's just looking for a way to get to the front and get one of those laps back. Then he can hope for a caution so he can try to get a little bit closer to getting back into this thing.
And we are seeing that second lane start to form up. But again, when we noted it the first time about the 94, Frank Busilia is not battling for position. He is 4 laps down in 20th. The 54, Brandon Crucivice, is not. He is 19th position and 3 laps down. The 82 machine on the outside, Dan Harrington, he is 17th and 2 laps down. The 83-year-old Evans is the first lead lap car up on the outside of the racetrack. And a lot of guys don't like when there are lap cars in this lead pack. I don't mind it. At lap number 60 as the 94 tried to cut down, a little bit of a tight move, a lap car, a lead lap car, but these guys are trying to get themselves an additional lap back so that if a caution comes out, they're not going to be 4 laps down or 3 laps down. They'll be only 3 laps down or 2 laps down. So that's the thinking behind this. I don't mind it at lap 60. It would really, though, I think, be a thorn in the side of the leaders if these lap cars are still here come that race to the end of it. But there's still 40 laps to go as of this time by. Pit stop still in order. And I think based on kind of how this race has started to play out, Brian, and take a look at this lead back, I'm thinking we should be able to get to green flag pit stops, which might separate these two groups.
Yeah, absolutely. And back to your point about the lap cars racing up front, it's frustrating if you're a leader, but it's completely understandable from the point of these guys that are racing a couple of laps down. We've had a handful of cautions, and there's still plenty of time for a couple of more cautions. Gives them an opportunity to get back into this thing. I don't blame them one bit for trying to race up here, get a couple of laps back the old-fashioned way, take the wave around, get that lap back, get yourself back into this thing, and then maybe be able to get up here and challenge for the race lead. Not only is it putting you back in that position, but it's showing you that you have a car capable of doing that and getting back to the front once again. And we're seeing that with Frank Busilia. We're seeing that with Brandon Cruz Monteveas. They have cars that are capable of running with the front pack. If they can get back on the lead lap, these are a couple of drivers that you might have to consider contenders for the race lead and for the win. So it's certainly a statement from those guys as we get closer to the end of this thing. If they can get back into it, I would think that these guys are going to have to look out for them.
Dealing with that 54 and the 82 are going to be doing, because as these lap cars get up and in front of Voltmans, again, he's second in line in that Monster Energy entry, but he is still the race leader. As soon as these guys on the outside cycle through and pass, the 82 is going to be the next driver over the 94, though. Big bobble in the corner, and somehow they hang on up front, but they're going to wreck behind, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a chain reaction wreck. It looked like it was a bump draft gone wrong. Frank Busilia slid up the track just a little bit. He gave the inside line to Jason Altmans for a moment. Looks like Jason started to put his nose in there and just was not able to get clear. He's tried to back out of it. It looks like, however, he just made enough contact to kick him sideways. And then a little bit further in the back, it looks like Andrew Berger got kicked around and made contact with Brandon Chaburko and has some pretty significant damage to his number 24 machine. So unfortunately for both Andrew Berger and Brandon Chaburko, they're the big losers in what just happened there. But I do believe at the moment of when the caution came out, Evan, Frank Busilia, Brandon Cruz Monteveas, and Dan Harrington were all ahead of Jason Altmans. They all just got one lap back because of the moves they made to get back into this thing just a little bit closer to being back into this thing. It was frustrating again for the leaders, but it worked out pretty well for all three of those drivers.
And that's big because they're going to get a wave by under the caution too. So essentially you're getting 2 laps back instead of 1. And that is the exact reason we were telling you why those guys were there. But I was just saying that they held on to it. And then the caution came out. It was for the 24. As you noted, got clipped by the 10 once they all got onto the binders. And that did bring out the caution. Chaburko, innocent victim, just kind of hanging back there in the same boat as a lot of these guys. Laps down, trying to get laps back. Chaburko was 1 lap down at the time. He may not have the ability to stay out and wait to get a wave around, because that 22 might be forced down to the pit lane to try to get damage repair for his involvement in that accident. And I had just said, hey, we should be able to go green to the end of this thing. And again, just a little bit of contact on the left rear quarter panel in the corner a couple of times tonight. Again, you can point to that just does not work. And while it was a fantastic job by the guys up front to hang on to it, the caution flag does come out. puts us kind of right on the bubble, though, as race leaders are down to the pit lane, and looks like Jason Altman's in 51, already in and out. He'll go with left side tires only, and I believe win that race off of pit road, because 36 laps to go is pretty close on being able to make it on fuel. If we get a caution between now and the end, I would fully expect the rest of these guys to come down to the pit lane and top off, Brian, based on the fact that, again, they are running a limited fuel cell at 70%. But in theory, if somebody didn't want to come in and top off, they could stay out, save gas under yellow, depending on how many we get, may be able to push it to the end. But this caution flag came about 5 laps too early for the fuel strategy to be really clear-cut.
Yeah, absolutely. It's still going to be a very close thing. I expect you might see some of the guys at the back half of this field top it off when they get to 1 to go, just to try to give themselves an advantage. If nothing else, it gives them less fuel to have to take under green if this thing were to stay green to the end, and give them an opportunity just to come in and get a splash and go and get back out there as quickly as possible and maybe try to steal something. If you're Jason Altman's, I don't necessarily think you want to give up the track position. You've seen how difficult it is for the outside line to work. You probably want to keep the lead and try to stay up there and just hope you get a couple of lucky breaks with a caution, or just hope that you get a clean pit stop under green that keeps you with that track position. But certainly this opens the door for a couple of guys to take a chance and see if maybe it works out in their favor. Just have to wait and see what happens here.
The lights of the base car stay on to this point, so not going to go green quite yet. I think the restart going to come up with about 34 laps to go in this race, and based on that, I still don't think that if we were to not have a caution and go uninterrupted, I think that would not be enough to make it on fuel. Typically, in races that stay green, we see a 3-stop strategy implemented about lap 25, about lap 50, and about lap 75. Sure, you could push it 5 or more laps, which again puts that fuel window relatively close to like lap 30 laps at a run. But I think, legitimately speaking, it's up in the air. And I guess it somewhat goes without saying, Brian, if you're going to need a caution to save fuel, and there's only 9 drivers on the lead lap, then I guess if that's the case, then you might as well just come in and top it off anyways.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that would be the safest bet, just because, once again, if you top it off right here and you still can't make it to the end on fuel, you don't have to take as much when you come back to pit road under green, possibly. And it just shortens your pit stop there and gives you that opportunity to get off pit road that much quicker. And that's certainly on a track like this, where you're going almost 200 miles an hour all the way around. If you can get out of pit road a second or two quicker than the rest of these guys, that could be the difference in you possibly winning the race, or you finishing in the 9th position as the last car on the lead lap at this point. So it's certainly something that these guys should be thinking about here. We're coming back around, and we might get the 1 to go. So you might see a couple of these guys duck off right here. Does not look like any of your race leaders are going to. I don't see anybody towards the back half of the field either. So maybe these guys feel comfortable where they're at right now, or maybe they just assume we're going to get some more caution laps, but nobody has come to pit road at this point to try to get fuel, and we do have the 1 to go, so they're going to go back green next time by.
And what this is going to do is it would cycle all of the lap cars out of the way, so they would not be intertwined with the lead pack. They'd still have the ability to get up there and race. The top 10 driver is going to be on the lead lap. 11th through 17th, though, 1 lap down, they'll be right on the bumper, and those guys can essentially do what we just saw them do on the last run, and that is form up an outside lane of their own, come up and challenge, and maybe even get right back to the lead lap the old-fashioned way. I'd say all the way through 20th position, you can still get in this thing. The 7 drivers that are 1 lap down, you got 2 drivers 2 laps down. On Suffice and Bakichin, a little bit more of a stretch, but I think still doable. And in Basilia, who has a clean car but has been trapped multiple laps down, he's 3 laps down in 20th. Those are the guys, look for them to be applying the pressure, trying to get laps back. If you talk about 21st, Jared Haggerty, 10 laps down, and on back to Kelly Dahl, 22 laps down, and Derek Walker, 23 laps down. To be quite frank, I don't think that's going to happen. But there are several drivers, I think, who have a reason to fight up with the guys up front, and it could be interesting, because now I don't think those leaders are going to be taking it quite as easy, Brian, as what we saw them doing on the last lap. So if you got them battling for position, and you've got guys behind battling for position while trying to lap them, it could get quite chaotic in that lead pack. It's going to look like a lot more than a 10-car lead pack.
Oh, absolutely. It's going to be wild now. We've gotten to the point of this race where if you're going to go for it, you've got to start going for it now. They're running out of time. Less than 35 laps to go. They've got to get everything they can right now.
Green flag going to drop, and we go back underway with 66 laps complete from Daytona. And a good jump for both the inside and the outside of the racetrack. The 51 of Oatman's going to lead the charge off to quarter number 1, side by side for the race lead with Piscini topside. Only Piscini and Henry survive at the outside of the racetrack. The 3 of Paul Servant, really bad start. The Oreo Chevrolet is falling back like a rock, and it killed the outside line.
Yeah, absolutely it did. As you see these guys all starting to fight for the bottom of the racetrack. Chris Piscini's still looking for a little bit of help from behind. Corey Henry's trying to get him that push, and he's got a little bit of a head or steam. Yeah, he's got a little bit of a head of steam right here as they head to 3 and 4. However, it begins to stall as they get through the middle of the corner. Jason Altman has the advantage coming off the corner. He leads the charge, and he's getting a little bit too far ahead of his pusher, Rodney Walker, as they come to the stripe, and that allowed Chris Piscini to close right back up, and now they're door to door as they head to turn 1. Chris Piscini looks like he might be able to get there and maybe challenge for the race lead. He's inching ahead, not going to be able to get clear to the bottom, so he's going to have to stay up there and allow Corey Henry to push for a little while longer. However, he's going to have another big run off turn 2. Let's see if he can get clear for the race lead as they come off the backstretch.
Got a good push, halfway there. Now 3/4 of the way, and he is going to be clear courtesy of a push from the 12. New race leader, lap 68, Chris Piscini, who started this race in the 3rd position, back on point. Just about 3/4 of the way through this thing. The 12, I thought maybe would either have been able to follow in behind the 1, or because the 1 made a move down to the pit lane relatively soon, stay up on the outside and actually pass Piscini, leapfrog him, and get to the race lead. That was not the case, though. So the 12 of Henry going to remain on the outside of the racetrack. Now he will have an opportunity to make a play for the race lead in his own right. How about Ryan Pylan, somebody we haven't talked all that much about? The 41 Chevrolet, top 5, I think, for the first time tonight.
Yeah, he's having a pretty solid rebound. He was caught up in a couple of wrecks, had to use his quick fix early in this race. Now he tries to challenge for the race lead as well, pushing Corey Henry in the middle of 3 and 4, seeing if he can't make the outside line work. And then here comes that number 21 machine of Glenn Hedrick. He was about 15 seconds off the lead pack when the last caution came out. Now all of a sudden he's challenging up here in this front group as well. He's trying to get up there and see if he can't challenge for the race lead. We've also got Frank Busilia hanging around at the back half of this front pack right now as well. He's 2 laps down, but he's already gotten 2 of them back. He's shown he's got a fast car. If he can get clear to the outside or to the lead of the outside line, he might be able to get up there and challenge once again and maybe get another couple of laps back. Meanwhile, though, back at the front, here comes Corey Henry challenging for the race lead. He's door to door with Chris Piscini as they head to 3.
And talking about all of those drivers that were looking for wave buys, we were able to lock them up under that caution flag. We are now back to 16 drivers total on the lead lap, with 30 laps to go this time by, with the question of fuel still hanging in the air. Drag race to the start-finish line that time. 3 1/1000ths advantage to the outside of the racetrack, courtesy Corey Henry in that number 12 Chevrolet, but he came up still about a half a foot shy of getting clear. It is, I will say, I think a lot easier, or I will say the back straightaway prevents a much better chance of making a move for the race lead than the front straightaway, because you got the short shoot from 4 to the tri-oval. You got to do the tri-oval, which kind of kills your momentum, and then you got a short shoot from there back to quarter number 1. The back stretch is the place to do it, and the guys at the outside didn't get it hooked up in time that time.
Yeah, absolutely, but Corey Henry was able to inch ahead and take the race lead. Now he's going to have to try to do it again as they come off turn 4. He's got another big head of steam. He's making the run as they head to the start-finish line, but this time Chris Piscini's going to win that battle and hold on to the race lead. He had it by about half a car as they head to turn 1 this time. He's going to have the inside line, which has been the advantage for most of the night. But however, the outside line is forming up just a little bit. Only 3 cars out there, but for the first time tonight, 3 cars seems to be enough to keep it competitive on the outside line, as they are staying right there with the race leaders and challenging at times for the race lead. now, Jason Altman has been able to push these guys clear on the inside line. I'm waiting to see if he's going to try to make that move up to the outside line because he is clear to make it. However, he stays to the inside for now, waiting to see if he's going to try anything. This would be his opportunity to do it right here. He decides to stay behind Chris Bassini, which allows that inside line to continue to inch ahead. Now Rodney Walford has gotten clear of the outside line, so that second groove is beginning to fall back at this point as they're just not formed up enough at this stage.
And sometimes if you're in the position that the 51 is in, you don't even need that push on the outside to make a move on the one because, again, earlier in this race, we were complimenting that one of Bassini, who was second in line at the time, started third inside of row 2, and was able to get up into the back bumper of Rodney Wofford, so almost inverted in what they run right now. And the one was a big reason why that 7 was able to lead those opening 13 laps because he was aggressive on the bumper. Well, if you eliminate that car that's pushing, you lose a lot of speed, so you'll oftentimes see that second car line jump to the outside of the racetrack, and then there's a big hole behind the one. That driver kind of falls back to the third car in line, in this case the 7, and that's how you go up and around on the outside of the racetrack. That opening, though, no longer there. The 12 driver filling that gap, and it's Corey Henry side by side in a battle for second. Lost a little bit of time, though, and we'll see if the 51 is able to commit to the outside of the racetrack or not.
Yeah, but for right now, he stays on the inside line. He's stuck down there now as Corey Henry has taken advantage of him being down on the inside line and is able to start inching ahead. Now you see Chris Bassini doesn't have a lot of help as he got about a half a car length ahead. He tries to pull up and block for a moment. He was not able to do it. Now Corey Henry's got the advantage. He's got a big run. He's going to lead at the stripe. Can he get clear as they head to turn 1? He's got the push from behind. I don't know if he's going to be able to get clear. He's going to stay up there for now. Looks like he is clear, and he's going to go to the bottom. No, he's going to stay on top as he just was not able to get down there quick enough, and that allows Chris Bassini to fight back on the inside line, but once again with very little help from behind as he gets about a half a car length ahead of Jason Altman's, and now Corey Henry's able to get clear to the inside to take the race lead on lap number 75. Corey Henry to the point on the bottom of the racetrack. Now Ryan Pylan leads the outside line as they head through 3 and 4 with help from Glenn Hedrick on the outside line here.
Yeah, sometimes if you don't make up your mind quick enough to make a move, then somebody else is going to make up your mind for you. And only 2 drivers now working on the outside, the 41 and the 21. Henry was able to get to the race lead. Biggest mover so far to this point is that number 20, or rather the 41 of Ryan Pylan, who started in a number 22 position and is up into the number 3 spot as they run right now. Having a little bit of a rough ride that time through 1 and 2. Again, the outside, you could absolutely be there with 2 cars, Brian. It's a combination of how aggressive you're pushing, how tight you're pinching down in the center of the corner. But I mean, it's possible. Don't get me wrong. We've seen it happen. But 2 drivers is just, I don't think, a sufficient strategy to make it work at the outside. You're in a tough spot. We'll go 3 wide, split some lap traffic. There's Haggerty on the outside of the racetrack, had a connection issue earlier on in this race. Back on track now, but multiple laps down. In fact, 9 laps down in 21st. But I think these guys need one more driver. If it's maybe the 26 to jump out and get behind him, if it's the 1 to jump out and get in front of him, I think 3 drivers the magic number to really make a competitive push.
Yeah, absolutely. While, like you said, it is possible for 2 drivers to do it, it's extremely difficult because it's a combination of side drafting and pinching down the guys on the inside line, and as you also mentioned, being extremely aggressive and being able to push, which right now we have not been able to see that number 21 machine get to the back bumper of Ryan Pylan and really be able to push him the way he needs to. It looks like his car stalls out when he gets about a half a car length behind him, and now we see Hedrick go to the inside line and leave Pylan out there hanging. So we have a single file train now that's going to send Pylan to the back of that train unless he can find a way to get to the inside line, which he had an opportunity in front of the 26 machine of Dan Halloway. However, he was not able to take advantage of it, so he's going to continue to slide back here looking for a spot. Doesn't look like he's going to get it until he gets behind Frank Bucilia, who is about 11 cars back, sitting on the inside line. He's finally going to be able to get in line back there, but now we see these guys getting single file, and this is where it becomes very tricky, Evan, for the outside line to work, because now, unless you have a teammate behind you that you know is going to go with you to the outside line, you're playing a game of chicken. Who's going to jump up there and who's going to go with you? If you don't have somebody committed to making that move with you, as soon as you make it, you're going to drop like a rock like we just saw Pylan do. You're not going to be able to do it by yourself. So now you have to be talking to spotters of the other drivers around you saying, hey, are you going to make this move with me, or am I going to make it by myself and get hung out? This is a very interesting call for whoever's going to make that move.
And now each move is going to come with a little bit more consequences, because the next time by, 21 laps to go in this race. Now I think you're going to see drivers back off a little bit. And it sounds counterintuitive to take it easier as the laps go down, but earlier in these races, you can make moves to the outside. You can be a little bit more aggressive. The consequences aren't that bad. Sure, nobody wants to drop to the end of an 11-car lead pack, but if it's going to happen, it should happen with 85 laps to go and not 15 laps to go. So at the end, you find these guys in single file. It's a high-speed game of chicken. Who makes the first move? Who's going to go to the outside? Are you talking with the people around you? Do you have any friends in that lead pack? Any teammates that are willing to work with you? Because that could make life a whole lot easier. But single file, top to bottom in this lead pack as we come around this next time to take 20 laps to go in tonight's Daytona 250. Again, don't forget, still believing drivers due up on pit road for gas, not going to be able to make it to the end. That could be something playing a factor in this as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You could see these guys getting ready to form up and try to make it to pit road, because from this point forward, if they come to pit road, they can make it to the end without having to worry about fuel. So it's just a matter of when these guys make that move. Do they want to do it under green? Do they want to take a chance that a caution is going to come out? This is the types of decisions that these drivers are having to make. And oh, by the way, they're doing 200 miles an hour. So no big pressure on these drivers to make those decisions at all. As they get around here and try to get themselves positioned to go for the race win in this last bit of this race. And Corey Henry, he's in the best seat possible because he's the race leader, controlling this line, knowing that nobody is making that move to the outside line. He's got it pretty easy right now in that Taco Bell Chevy, because he's able to just slot around here on the bottom of the racetrack, hang on, lead laps, and just continue to wait for everybody else to try to make their moves.
And I wonder if everybody is either in agreement on this, that, hey, we need to be single file so we can get down to the pit lane, or if it is gotten to that point where nobody wants to be the first guy to make the move. Oftentimes, the person who makes that move to the outside doesn't get to have an opportunity to battle for the race lead, because it's normally not somebody from second or third, because they're too smart for that. Pasini, I would put money on that Pasini and Oltmans either will not, or in my opinion, should not be the drivers to make the move for the race lead. What they'll do is they conventionally would wait for maybe a fifth or a sixth or a seventh guy in line to get a run. Then they jump up, steal the run, use the momentum, get the race lead. And the guy who took the gamble to go up to the outside stays about third or fourth in line on the top. That's just the way things work. 18 laps to go. We've been deadlocked like this for maybe 5 laps now.
Yeah, absolutely. And back to the point about having to come to pit road, though, another decision these guys have to do is when do they come to pit road, and who do they come to pit road with? You cannot make that move and go to pit road by yourself and expect to come out and be in the main pack when it's all said and done. These guys are going so fast in a draft, they're going to be about 10 miles an hour slower if they go to pit road by themselves and come back out with no drafting help whatsoever. So now you're also having to think about that. Who can I go to pit road with? You're talking to those guys around you. Hey, when do you want to come to pit road? When do you want to make that stop? We need to try to do it together. We need to coordinate this together. So there is so many things that are going through these drivers' heads right now. And like we said, they're doing 200 miles an hour. It's absolutely insane what these guys have to think about while they're going so fast and trying to control these cars and get around here and still put themselves in a position to win the race. And fortunately for these guys, with there being only a handful of laps left, they're going to have to come to pit road somewhere in the next 5 to 10 laps. It's going to give them an opportunity to still make a challenge for the race lead when it's all said and done.
They run in order, top to bottom. Corey Henry, your race leader. Chris Pasini, Jason Oltmans, Rodney Watford, Glenn Hedrick, Daniel Holloway, Rod Flagg, Ryan Pyland, and Scott Warren. Those are your top 9. You've got Andrew Berger in 10th and Dan Harrington at 11th. That's top to bottom, single file, lead lap drivers. There are a handful of guys this year. They come down to the pit lane, as we might have predicted. First 4 drivers to pit. It's going to be Pasini, Henry, Oltmans, Watford in for the final time. Clean entry by all of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Waiting to see what the call is going to be. Is it going to be a splash and go? Or are they going to get 2 tires? We don't expect to see any 4 tires at this point, because nobody needs 4 tires down here on pit road. But definitely just waiting to see what these guys are going to decide to do. Looks like gas and only for Chris Passini and Rodney Walford. They're already down and away, and it looks like they're going to lead the charge off pit road. Jason Altman almost spins it out coming off pit road. He was trying to get gassed up and get going, and he almost spun out. He's getting up to speed, but Chris Passini has a big advantage over the rest of these guys as they come off pit road. Meanwhile, none of the other race leaders have made the move to come to pit road as they come around this time by, so those are the only drivers that have decided they wanted to get their fuel now. Waiting to see when the rest of these guys are going to make that move to pit road. They're running out of time to do so.
And I'll tell you what, the 7 really didn't cut the 50 on a break. I don't think Watford have braked at all, so that was a tight squeeze. They have to get grouped up, these 4. They've got to get pushing, and they've got to do it now because here comes the race leaders behind them who have yet to come down to the pit lane. There's a bigger pack of these drivers. Hedrick, Holloway, Flagg, Basilia, Pyland. Those 5 drivers should be able to go head-to-head with the drivers who just pitted. The question is the short pit a better call? The short pit on a plate track, though, is not like a short pit on a smaller track, Brian. The tires so minimal, these guys coming down to get fuel to be able to make it to the end of this. I don't think it matters when you pit. I think it matters how effective and how clean that pit stop is.
Yeah, absolutely. And the problem that they had is they did not come off pit road bumper to bumper the way they needed to. Chris Passini had a big advantage, and he had to fall back to these guys. So for about a half a lap, they were just trying to get reorganized and get single file so that they could get up to speed and be able to start drafting the way they need to. They have an opportunity, though, because it looks like the rest of your leaders, or at least a handful of your leaders, are about to come to pit road. I saw a couple of drivers signaling that they're coming to pit road this time by, including our race leader, Glenn Hedrick. And as they come off turn 4, we should see these guys come to the apron, and indeed they do. It looks like the rest of this front pack is going to come in. Everybody trying to get in cleanly. Looks like Hedrick locked the tires up for a moment as he was trying to slow down. He's got it under control now, and they head to pit road for their round of pit stops as well. This is the opportunity for the rest of the drivers, for Jason Altman's, Rodney Walford, and those guys to get back into this front pack as all these leaders come to pit road for their final service of the night.
And they were tight coming into the line, but all of them wanted to make sure there was no one self-inflicted error into the box. They were all very easy getting into the white lines. A little bit of a tight call, the 10 and the 21. Going to cross each other up out of the pit lane. This might not be good for them, though, because it looks like Basilia and Pyland might pull away from Hedrick and Flagg, and if that's the case, 2 drivers in a draft not going to be as strong as 4 drivers in a draft when you talk about the drivers who had already come down and completed their pit service. So only time will tell, but that might be a negative on these drivers, depending on how they can get going. Keep an eye on the one of Passini. No, we're wrecking down the back. Rod Flagg.
And Rod Flagg, it looked like he was trying to merge up onto the backstretch coming off of turn 2, and the car just kicked sideways when he jumped off of the apron and onto the banking. And actually, it looks like as he was getting up to speed, he just got sideways down on the apron and spun it out right in front of Chris Passini and a couple of other drivers that were coming at full steam. Somehow they made it through cleanly. However, this is going to work out for a couple of those drivers that had just come off of pit road. Glenn Hedrick, Ryan Pyland, those guys are going to be your race leaders when it's all said and done. And how about Frank Busilia? He came out in front of all those guys. He's going to get one more of his last back. He should get the wave around. That's going to put Frank back on the lead lap inside the final 10 laps of this thing to give him an opportunity to go up there and try to challenge for the win.
I agree. I think that pack that had the steam that had already pitted in that group of 4 that I was just talking about was going to take over the lead. They had 4. They were going to be going up against the group of 2, and Rod Flagg, he had Aaron's on the hood. That's about as close to Michael Waltrip as you could get it. Just spinning out, coming onto the racetrack at a turn number 2. It's not a accident that anybody's happy to see. It's an avoidable accident, and sometimes stuff happens, and it's a tough break for Rod Flagg. He definitely did not want to see that. Came into tonight 48 points off of the top spot, and what ended up being 23 points off of the transfer spot, the final transfer spot into the round of 6. This rec means that he is literally in a win-or-go-home scenario in 2 weeks' time from Talladega, so a tough break for him, but this is going to put Ryan Pyland and Glenn Hedrick in front of that group of Passini, Altmans, Holloway, and Watford, who I think would have been your race leaders if that caution flag did not come out.
Oh, absolutely. They would have been the race leaders. They were at full song, and the rest of these guys were just coming up to speed off of pit road. They were going to easily take the race lead, and unfortunately this caution puts them behind the 8 ball just a little bit now because they're going to have to work around a couple of these drivers. However, they do have about 10 laps to do it. It should be maybe 8 laps when they go back green, I would imagine. So they have an opportunity to make it happen. They're just not going to have a lot of time to do it at this point because we're inside the final 10 laps of this thing.
And we've got a couple of laps around the racetrack to go before we get under green flag conditions. These guys topped off, so they're good to go to the end. It is going to be a dogfight for the checkered flag and what is still a free ticket to the round of 6 if one of our chase drivers gets that checkered flag. So, inside of 10 laps to go, we'll take this opportunity to step aside one final time during race conditions, and we will go LSRTV non-stop, so you don't miss a moment of the action. Ryan Pilon trying to hang on and play spoiler tonight from the Daytona International Speedway. He's your race leader with less than 10 laps to go. Back live from the World Center of Racing, where the lights are now out on top of the iRacing.com official pace car. Restart due up. 8 laps to go in tonight's Daytona 250. It's the second race of 3 in the opening round of the Superspeedway Cup Series Season 14 playoff. And we're happy that you've been sticking around with us tonight on LSRTV and iRacing Live. Just before the caution flag came out, lead lap cars came in to top off on fuel. They are good to the end, no service required. So, Ryan Pilon, Glenn Hedrick, Daniel Holloway going to go to 1, 2, and 3, courtesy of a very timely caution flag for them. They're going to make up the first couple of spots, and it'll be Chris Pasidi 4th, Jason Opens in 5th, Wofford, Henry, Berger, Warren, and Servants inside of the top 10. The complete running order going to scroll across the top of your screen. But Brian, this could be it. If we get inside of 5 laps to go, when a caution flag comes out, this race will end. If we get a yellow before that point, we will get another restart, but it's 50-50 on if this is the final restart of the night.
Yeah, absolutely, and these drivers have to treat it like it will be the last restart of the night. They've got to get up to speed and go for it as quickly as possible because they have to know that if a caution comes out after just a couple of laps, they don't have any more opportunities. So every lap needs to be raced like it's the last lap. And for a guy like Chris Cassini, if he can get up there and lead and maybe win this race, he can lock himself into the round of 6. Same thing for Jason Altmans. Same thing for Rodney Walford, our pole sitter from tonight.
His car gonna duck down. Here we go, at least one final time. Ryan Pilon gonna come to take the American Ethanol green flag. 8 laps to go from Daytona, and a good jump for the drivers on the inside of the racetrack. Inside line, half a car length advantage to 1 and 2. Look for it to be about a whole car length by the time we come into turn 2. The inside place to be, getting up to speed. 41 got a good jump.
Yeah, he did, and he got a really good push from Daniel Holloway on that restart, which allowed him to get the jump that he needed. Now the inside line is clear for the first 2 positions, and now Jason Altman's trying to get clear as well, as he's going to move up into 3rd ahead of Glenn Hedrick. Nobody on the outside line at this point other than that number 21 machine of Glenn Hedrick. Everybody has already went to the bottom of the racetrack. I'm not going to lie, I'm very surprised about this. I thought we'd see more side by side as we got inside the last 10 laps. Now we have to wait and see who's going to make the move and try to get up there and challenge for the race lead. It again goes back to what we were talking about before the caution, with it being single file. Who's going to make the move and who goes with you when you decide to make it?
On the 26th, thinking about it, I think he was kind of peeking it out to see if Voltman's behind him. Would appear that he was going to follow him up to the outside of the racetrack because it's a big move. If the 51 goes with you, you're going to the race lead. If he doesn't, you're going to the back, which would be 17 cars back because there's 17 on the lead lap, and I'd say the lead pack is at least 15 of them. Big wiggle though for the 26 on Holloway. That's going to give up his spot on his own accord. Slides up the racetrack, but caution flag behind.
Yeah, there was a wreck going off into turn 3. I didn't catch who it was, but that brought out the caution here. I'm pretty sure as they were going down the back straightaway, somebody got kicked sideways down into the grass. I'm hearing it was the 76 machine of Scott Warren who got sent down into the grass, and when he came back across the track, he just barely nosed up onto the racetrack, and that's what brought out our caution. I do think, though, Evan, we're going to get one more restart here at Daytona. That caution came out quick enough where I think they're going to have at least a 1-lap shootout, possibly a 2-lap shootout to decide this thing.
Yeah, and I kind of find it hard to fault the 21 on that one. I feel like that 21 of Hedrick was high enough, and the 76 just kind of drifted up inadvertently and got spun, and it's such a difficult place to be in when that car spins down in the grass at the inside of corner 3. Locked it up and almost was able to keep it rolling, but that car did come to a complete stop above that double yellow line, and that triggered the caution flag to come out. So now the fate in this race is going to be much easier to know because it'll be about anywhere from 3 to 1 laps to go when this thing goes back into green flag conditions. And don't expect anybody to kind of play footsie with each other and not want to go after it on this next restart, because again, 8 laps to go, different than 3 laps to go. This restart will come in that point of no return. It is not like the real world side of things where you could rely on an overtime, Brian, or a green-white checker. There's no setting somebody up, I think. You don't wait till the white flag. You don't wait till the final time at a 2. You don't wait till the final time at a quarter 4, because you don't know if that's going to be the place where you make the move for the race win. You go green, the race could end 5 seconds later with a caution flag. So it is such a toss-up late in these races. I do think that it is noteworthy, though, that you look at the guys up front. There's a lot of non-chase competitors in this thing. Jason Altmans, though, is in a fantastic spot. Corey Henry, Chris Piscini, Rodney Watford, those guys looking to get a win to get themselves into the round of 6. Pyland and Holloway on the front row, the drivers trying to play spoiler.
Yeah, absolutely, and all they're here for at this point is to try to get the win, so expect them to race like that when we go back green, because they're not racing for an opportunity to win the championship. They're just here. They want to win a couple more races before the season is over, maybe try to get their first win on the season if they can get it done. So I expect you'll see those 2 drivers treated just as such on this last restart, and I also expect you'll see a guy like Jason Altmans, who's been extremely aggressive all night long, to take his chances and try to get up there and challenge for the race lead. And back to what you were talking about, where you can't wait at this point. As soon as you get the opportunity to go for the race lead at this stage, you have to go for it, because as you mentioned, Evan, you just don't know when the caution is going to come back out, or if you get to the white flag, if you're going to have another opportunity to go for it. So when the door opens, you have to put your foot in it and take that chance and hope that it works out for you in the best way possible, where you can try to go up there and challenge for the race victory. That's exactly what I expect we'll see on this final restart here when we get back going.
And really, it's a waiting game until we find out how many laps this thing's going to have left in it. I don't expect the lights to go out on top of the pace car this time, just because pit road had to open it for lead lap cars, and then it technically has to open for lap down cars. Unless there were no lap down cars on track, you might be able to cut a lap out of the run. Not going to be the case. So lights going to stay on top. I expect them to go out the next time by, which means that we would go green with 2 laps to go, which is exciting. I think that, you know, a little bit of bias. Obviously, you like to see long green flag stretches in these things, Brian, but I think deep down we all love when these finishes are absolutely chaotic, and that's no doubt going to happen with 2 laps to go. But the less laps that are left, the better position Pyland is in, because there's less laps that he has to hold people off for. If a caution flag would have come out, you know, leading the first 2 laps is a lot easier than having to hold on for 8 laps. But also, these guys really don't get up to speed until, you know, they get to about 190 on the backstretch off of the restart, but the draft really doesn't start to kick in until 3 and 4. So you're really only giving the guys on road 2, 3, 4, and so on and so forth 1 lap to do anything.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what makes it so challenging, because you don't have that much time, so you're not going to see the organization that we've seen these guys have throughout the course of the race. As soon as they get an opportunity to go for the race lead, they're going to jump out and take that opportunity. They're not going to wait and try to wait for that push and wait for that help that they want or they need. They're just going to go for it and hope that the best thing happens for them, which is going to make it very chaotic, and I'm with you on that, Evan. That's the type of finish that we want to see. It's probably frustrating from the driver's standpoint. I'm sure they just want this thing to be over, especially if you're Ryan Pyland. But for us sitting up here in the broadcast tower and for everybody watching back at home, this is exactly what you want to see. A chaotic finish that's going to bring a fantastic finish when it's all said and done.
And if you've been sticking around with us all night, or if you're just joining us now that the Camping World Truck Series race has come to a close in rather anticlimactic fashion, you're in the right place, because this one's going to be good. 3 laps to go this time by. We'll see if the lights do go out on top of the pace car to set us up for a 2-lap to go restart. Yes, they do. So we're going to come by the next time, take lap number 99, lap number 100. That's it. If a caution comes out, again, as we stated before we get to the white flag, this race will end at the moment of caution. The field is frozen. Whoever is in front at that point is going to be your race winner tonight from Daytona. If we get to the white flag, doesn't matter how many cars make it back, the first person back to the start-finish line takes home the win. The championship implications, Ryan Pyland and Daniel Holloway on the front row, not in the championship. They win would be nothing more than great for them. That's what they're here for, is to get wins, because they're not in the points. But for the guys 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th, for Altmans, Henry, Passini, and Wofford, a win is so much more than the points. Sure, they would love to get the top 5 finish. That would do wonders for them in the points, and it would put them, I think, in a great position going into Talladega in 2 weeks' time, trying to make the top 6 cut. But a win, you kick your feet up, nothing matters, because you get that ticket to the championship round of 6. So there is a lot riding on the next 5 miles once we take the green flag.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a wild finish, and if you have just tuned in, you tuned in at the perfect time, because it's going to be absolutely insane. I look for the 51 of Jason Altmans to make a pretty aggressive move. He's going to have the advantage of the inside line as they're getting up to speed, which has proven to be quite an important thing throughout most of the night. If he can get clear of the outside line, I expect we'll see him jump up there as quickly as he can to try to get around that 41 machine and try to take the race lead away.
Here we go for one final time from Daytona. The pace car going to duck down and away. Going to be once again the 41 of Ryan Pyland in control of the field. Green flag flies. 2 laps to go from Daytona, neck and neck to the green flag.
And you see that the inside line did not get going as well as that they would have liked. Ryan Pyland did not get up through the gears the way he wanted. That's allowing Dan Holloway to try to jump ahead as they head to turns 1 and 2. Now the inside line's got the advantage as they get up to speed here. You see Ryan Pilon inching ahead. Jason Altmans is pushing him as they come off turn 2. And a little bit of contact coming off the corner that almost sent Dan Holloway into the inside line. Now he's trying to get the run as they head to 3 to try to take the race lead away.
And he's got a lot of momentum up on the outside of the racetrack. Problem is, it's into the corner. Can he clear him? No. Pyland gonna fight back into center in 3 and 4. Contact in the battle for the race lead at 196 miles an hour. Drag race to the white flag. The assistance is there on the outside, but Pyland has no help. White flag in the air, last lap.
Daniel Holloway jumps ahead as they head to turn 1. Can he get clear to the bottom? Yes, he can. Daniel Holloway goes to the bottom as they head to turn 1. He takes advantage of the inside line now, leaves Corey Henry out to dry. As they come off turn 2, here comes Ryan Pilon looking for the run down the back straightaway. Is he going to make the move to the outside line? Yes, he is. They're blocking as they go down the back straightaway. Holloway trying to hold him off. They head to turn 3 for the final time.
And I think the 26 might have done it there. Shut the door 2-3 times. Pyland is going to be limited on options coming out of turn number 4, and the championship guys aren't even going to have a shot at this. Final time at quarter number 4. 26 chases the 41 up to the inside, and contact. They're going to wreck before the start-finish line, and Corey Henry going to come up shy. It's Jason Altmans by 3 1/1000ths of a second, who is going to the championship 6.
Can you believe what we just saw right there? Jason Altmans comes off turn 4, doesn't think he has a shot to win. He's just going to try to get 3rd place, maybe try to push his way around the 26 for 2nd. They make contact for the race lead, and he's going to come out on top. Jason Altmans is your winner here at Daytona. Absolutely insane. Evan, we told the viewers this was what you wanted to tune in for. They got exactly what they were looking for. What an incredible finish here at Daytona.
And you can never count these guys out of this thing. At a turn 4, as I noted, the championship drivers didn't have a shot in the dark at trying to get this thing. The 41 beautifully set up the 26, went high, crossed him up. That overhead shot was the best replay. Went down to the inside and didn't go all the way to the yellow line because the 51 was somewhat inside of him. And the 26 came down a little bit. The 41 came up a little bit. I don't think you can chalk that up to much more than a racing accident between those two. I think they took each other out. I don't think the 41 turned the 26. I don't think the 26 chopped the 41 off. Those were two drivers who would not refuse to give up on this one. And then I thought it was all Corey Henry topside. He had a huge run, Brian, but he lost the push from behind. The 7 backed off, too shy of the start-finish line. And it's Altmans on the inside of the racetrack who takes the win and will join Brandon Chaburko in the round of 6, pending that we note that this race finish is unofficial and will be under review, but I see no reason the 51 doesn't get credited with that win, and what a fantastic and spectacular way to get into a championship.
Yeah, absolutely. What an incredible finish for these guys. And to your mention, you talked about coming off turn 4. None of the playoff contenders had an opportunity to win this race. Well, the playoff contenders finished 1, 2, 3, 4 when it was all said and done. So coming off turn 4, they may not have thought they had an opportunity at it, but when they got to the start-finish line, all 4 of them had an opportunity to do it. Jason Altmans, Corey Henry, Chris Passini, and our pole sitter, Rodney Walford, finishing the top 4 spots here tonight.
And we will await to run you through the official running order until we get confirmation from the top that nothing's going to change. Again, Pyland comes home 7th in the grass. We'll wait to confirm those positions, but it appears Jason Altmans is going to be your winner tonight from the Daytona International Speedway. How about this fact? First win on season 14, I believe, for Mr. Altmans, and it comes at a fantastic time because that will put him into the round of 6. We will chat with who is, I am sure, an ecstatic driver of the 51. We'll chat with the top 3, and we will get you set for a deciding round. In 2 weeks' time, it's an elimination race where we cut the field down to 6, but Altmans getting the job done tonight is your winner from Daytona. We'll step aside, and when we come back, we'll catch up with him in Victory Lane.
Racing, you wanted the best, you got them 4 abreast, often imitated, never duplicated, the greatest show on dirt, the World of Outlaws.
There are 3 different paths if you want to call yourself a world champion of sim racing. NASCAR, open wheels, or endurance racing. But no matter which one you take, you can guarantee that the journey will always be tough, which few will ever complete. The iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series, the premier road racing series in sim racing, started with a new car taking center stage. Then, it was Martin Kroenke resisting any challenge thrown at him to break the 5-year stranglehold of Gregor Hutu as being world champion. These drivers and teams are not just competing for pride, they're competing for money. And with over $20,000 in prizes for each of the series up for grabs, drivers really do put it all on the line.
The NASCAR Beginner for Series powered by iRacing is the premier NASCAR esports series featuring the cars and tracks from the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series. The 2016 campaign saw a return to the top of the mountain by Ray Alfalla as a 3-time Oval World Champion. The march to that championship was not easy though, despite the fact that Ray Alfalla took home the most points in series history. It just also happened to be the tightest championship fight we had ever seen. These guys are set for the 2017 campaign.
The Blancpain GT Series hosts the top GT3 endurance teams in sim racing, with groups of 3 or more drivers sharing the wheel. This is a championship you can't win alone, and you need the same determination, passion and drive from your teammates to be successful. They often say that it takes just one mistake to lose a championship, and in team racing, it may not be your mistake that costs you the win. Last season, VRS Coanda SimSport won the championship by a single point. This year, who will step up to the plate?
These are the iRacing Esport World Championships, the pinnacle of sim racing competition. Catch it all season long with live coverage on iracing.com/live.
Welcome back live to the Daytona International Speedway, where a wild one has drawn to a conclusion. If the start finish line was about 100 feet back towards turn 4, we would have been talking about a non-chase competitor stealing this one. Instead, we've got a championship driver who's just punched his ticket into the round of 6. We'll talk with him in a moment. First, we'll take this opportunity to take a look at your LSRTV full race results for round number 16, stressing that, again, the finish is official at the line, barring any review over the course of the week, in which case we'll let you know. But the way they come across the start-finish line is Jason Altmans is your winner. That will be an automatic bye into the round of 6 for the driver of the 51. Corey Henry could have really used that. Came into tonight 13 points below the cut line. He gets a lot of points for P2, but will not be safe going into the final race of this round. Chris Passini comes home in 3rd tonight. We'll also chat with him. He just barely edged out Randy Wofford by 4 1,000ths, who comes home in 4th. You got Paul Servatin 5th, Glenn Hedrick in 7th, Ryan Pylan through the grass to P7, Daniel Holloway in the grass coming home in a number 8 spot with Ray Rittenauer and Frank Basilia rounding out our top 10.
Yeah, man, how about Frank Basilia? He was 5 laps down at one point in this race, comes home with 10th. Then right behind him, we had Brandon Cruz Monteveas finishing in the 11th position tonight. Mike Thiel will finish 12th. Scott Warren comes home 13th. 4-time champion of this series, Andrew Berger will finish in the 14th position here tonight. Ramon Evans will finish 15th. Then we have Mark Jorgensen Jr. He came in as the points leader here tonight. He finishes 16th. Then we have Shane McKeechin finishing 17th, and he was the last driver to finish on the lead lap here tonight. Rod Flagg finishes 18th, 12 laps down out of the race. 19th goes to Dan Harrington, also out of the race. The rest of these drivers all finished out of the race well before the end of this thing. Jared Haggerty finishes in the 20th position. Brandon Chaburko finishes 21st. Kelly Dahl 22nd. And Derek Walker finishes 23rd. That has been a look at your full field rundown. We saw Jason Altmans go to victory lane and get the win. Now I believe Evan Pasoko is going to be in victory lane talking to our race winner. You're down there talking to Jason Altmans.
And just to provide a little bit of pretext to this, he said a couple, if not I think 1 week ago, that he tried to get me to say something to him. And I said that if he wants to chat, you got to get the win. And apparently he is a betting man, because that's exactly what he did tonight. Jason Altmans is your winner from the Daytona International Speedway. You found me, and you found a ticket into the round of 6, sir. Congratulations. What a finish. A battle for third becomes a battle for the race win. You get it by 3 1,000s coming from behind. I have no idea what happened to you.
No, yeah, I just wanted to take that win so I could come in here, call you a jerk, and you'd have to talk to me. So
fair,
that works
fair.
after last week, so that works. I honestly, I felt like really good through the entire beginning of the race there. Fast car, I think I led a lot of laps, and it was kind of one of those deals. I just felt like I could kind of move around. So the temperature in the set was just kind of working for me tonight. Got a little damage towards about the 3/4 way in the middle of the race there. Got the damage, and I went, not good, because then I had about 30 seconds of optional, and it was slowing me down. I could definitely tell, and the last restart or the last couple of restarts really noticed that I was a little bit slower than everybody else, and I went, well, game over for that. I guess I'm just going to, if I can settle for a podium finish, that would be great. I was sitting there screaming in TeamSpeak to Pyland what to do, and he kind of got screwed over there, and he was making some right moves, some wrong moves there, so I don't know. I'm shocked that I ended up making that. I just kind of kept my foot in it and hoped for the best, and it worked.
I feel like that's the best policy typically at these plate races. I know that the guys in front of you were not obviously championship guys, so they wanted to come to get the win, and they wanted to win so much they wrecked each other for it to try to play spoiler. But there were a lot of times tonight where there were obviously the non-chase guys mixed in throughout the field, but also times where there were lap down cars mixed in with the guys up front. How was this race for you guys? There was a fair amount of cautions compared to 1 week ago, a lot of big carnage, and at the end it works out for you guys because it ended up up front. But how was kind of the pace of this thing and how you worked your way through it?
It was kind of interesting. It seemed like there was a lot of variables just kind of at play tonight with just how some of the cautions shook out. And then it seemed like when we got under caution, there was one of the cautions where the 83 decided just to go all the way around the pace car. And so even though I was technically P2, I got restarted in the lead and he got black flag. I don't know what happened exactly there. So there was just a lot of weird stuff happening. A lot of those wrecks in the first half of the race took out a lot of people out of contention. I think it's interesting to look at this because you get a lot of talent that comes through here where, for example, tonight, you ended up having the 26 and you had the 41 at the top of the field tonight, but, the more experienced guys that, the guys that are in the chase with me, Luke ends up prevailing. That's not a knock on anything. It's just, I think the experience really starts to play off on this. 26 to 41 should have won this race, and they ended up kind of knocking each other out. Good racing. I'm glad that they went for it. I like to see that aggression, so not a knock on them. It's awesome that they were able to, especially Highland, who hasn't been able to race this for such a long time. So weird race, but again, I'll take the result. I'm really happy I actually get to compete for a championship. Usually I get knocked out of it right before, so I'll take it.
Those probably have to be the biggest 4 1,000ths of a second in your career in this season or in this series because of, the point that you just noted. You guys are going to be able to get to that final round and have a shot at this thing head to head. You join Chaburko as, the drivers now who have gotten that bye, and you leave the other, what is now 10 drivers to fight for 4 spots in 2 weeks' time. But first and second is a huge difference, obviously, because you get the bye, but you came into tonight above the cut line. Good by 9 points to what would be the first spot out on points between you and I think it was Berger who came into tonight 7th. And then you got Corey there who was beating you up until probably 20, 25 feet before the start-finish line there, and the run just stalled out for him at the outside. He came into tonight, I think, 13 points below the cut line. So a second place is good for him on points. It's good points, but he's still in a little bit of a dicey situation going into the race in 2 weeks' time, although there were a lot of championship guys that got torn up and didn't have good results. So I do believe he'll be above the cut line at least. But the win is huge. The win in Jürgen was big in the regular season. You guys transferred in based on the points, and if there's any time to break through and knock a win out, it was tonight.
Yeah, that was huge. I mean, it's hard to really describe how big of a win this ends up being because, I was trying to do the math inside my head as we do this, and even after finishing third last week, I'm still looking. I'm like, God, I'm still only fifth in points. Like, I really got to make some stuff up because I haven't had a win yet this season. And so I was going into it. I'm like, man, if I finish third again, I'm in a good spot, but it still puts so much pressure on this next race, and it's so hard to be able to do, 3 top 5s in a row. It's really tough in this series. So I was nervous about it. I'm like, well, whatever. I'll come out of this with maybe another top 3. That'll work for me, and I'll just have to go in for another stressful race next week. And it's just really hard to do. So I'm glad I can just go into next week and just kind of play around with Jabberco and see what works for us, and just kind of get the momentum rolling for the championship races.
And you get the next time you're going to have to worry is in about 20 days because you got a week off. We go race it on the 2nd for the final race of this round, and it's not until the 9th until that round of 6 gets kicked off. Hopefully for you guys, that little bit of relieved stress means that you can be the Ryan Pyland and Daniel Holloway at the next race, and you can go in there and make sure somebody else doesn't get a free ticket into the championship round, and we'll have an opportunity to talk again in Victory Lane. But until then, we'll let you take off. First, the sponsors and the shout-outs. All those folks. First win on season 14. It comes at a fantastic time. Who makes it happen?
Just gotta thank my wife for allowing me to have a steering wheel on my desk. I really appreciate Rod Flagg for putting the series on. He's doing a great job, even though he seems to keep getting wrecked out in the middle of the chase. LSRTV, you guys do a great job. That's about it.
It is your race winner tonight from Daytona, Jason Altmans. Congratulations on the win. You took my challenge or the gauntlet or whatever you want to call it, and you put it in my face. So congratulations.
I would not be denied today. Yep.
And hopefully in 2 weeks' time, we'll do this again. Maybe we'll make this a regular thing. Best of luck going into the championship if we don't get to talk until the round of 6.
All right, man. Catch you later. Cisco, great job tonight.
That is your winner. First on the season. Again, it comes at a very opportune time. Jason Altmans, driver of the number 51 with a win here tonight, picking up career win number 8. Also trackside awaited us, Corey Henry, who came home second tonight. Great points on the playoff grid, Brian, but it's not that automatic ticket. You're trackside with the driver who came home P2.
Yeah, absolutely. I have caught up with second place finisher Corey Henry here tonight. Corey, coming off turn 4, you didn't have an opportunity at the win. You were sitting back there just looking to try to get third or fourth. All of a sudden, you get to the tri-oval, and the 2 leaders wreck themselves, and you're trying to beat Jason Altmans to the line. Unfortunately, you come up just 4 1,000ths of a second short. Talk about that in your night here tonight at Daytona.
Yeah, coming off the 4, I was like, just don't wreck me, just don't wreck me, just don't wreck me. And sure enough, they started wrecking, and I think I kind of ruined my chance at winning when we went into the tri-oval. I entered in kind of high and stayed high a little bit too late. I was expecting those cars to come back up the track and try to overcorrect. And fortunately, that didn't happen, but unfortunately, I stayed up too high, and I think you can probably tell in the replays there at the end, I kind of jerked it back down, tried to get on Jason's door. At that point, I was just kind of on the outside and hoping he wasn't anywhere near. But overall, the night was kind of crazy for us. We ran up front and got taken out, and that kind of sucked. We went 2 laps down. Fortunately enough, we had a glitch that kicked me out of the server. I came back. My reset didn't mess up, so I had that extra car. And we just pretty much avoided all the chaos as we went along through the race. I think there was one instance I had to come to a full stop just to stay out of it. But we recovered nice, and we're able to come out here with a second place finish and hopefully look good in the points heading into that final race before eliminations.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point about the wreck where you had to come to a complete stop, I was watching that happen. I just want to say that was absolutely incredible driving on your part, because I was sitting there watching. I'm like, okay, he's going to pile in on this thing because he has nowhere to go. And somehow you locked it up and were able to come to a complete stop. How were you able to do that? Because that was absolutely insane watching it from up here.
I seen him start to wreck, and I had Rod Flagg right on my tail, and he even knocked me a little bit sideways, so I think that kind of helped. I kind of went into a controlled spin, and I just completely locked it down, held the wheel straight, and thankfully the Goodyear tires and the brakes just stopped right in front of 2 cars that were coming back down. So I was happy about that. I had, I think, 4 seconds of damage to repair with Rod getting into us. I hate to see him go on through there. I think he made it all the way around to the exit of turn 2 before a car came back down into him. So yeah, I've kind of got into a habit of when they're wrecking, I just completely come to a stop, let everything slide down the track before I take off. So we got really lucky there. Fortunate.
Yeah, absolutely, you did. And coming into tonight, you were 13 points outside of the cutoff to make it into the round of 6. Obviously, you're going to make up quite a bit of ground here tonight with your second-place finish. We don't have the official result or standings as it stands right now, but you've made some progress on that here tonight. Of course, the win would have locked you into that round of 6. What can we expect out of you guys going into Talladega in a couple of weeks? It's sure to be a very exciting night for you guys as you're trying to make it your way into the next round.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I guess right now the strategy is just going to run up front as long as we can at Talladega and hopefully miss all the carnage. If we do get caught up in something, it'll be more of the same as you saw tonight. I'll just kind of hang out in the back until it's actually go time and hopefully miss everything and get a good finish there. You probably saw it as we were going. We had green flag pit stops. Me and my teammates, Chris and Rodney and Jason was with us too. So we were going to do really well. We were going to probably go into the turn 3 coming onto the back straightaway. We were probably going to have a second lead, and whenever that caution came out, that was in front of us. So yeah, the game plan is just stay out front as long as you can. If you get taken out early, just hang out and see what happens, and then go back to the front.
There you go. Well, we'll let you go and get ready to go enjoy the rest of your evening. But before we do, just want to give you an opportunity to say thank you to your sponsors and say hello to any friends or family who makes it happen for you on the number 12 machine, Corey.
Gotta say hey to my dad that's watching back home. Sure, he had a good entertaining hour and a half there watching the race on LSRTV. So shout outs to him. Want to give a big thanks to my teammates Chris, Rodney, and Derek for helping me throughout the race. And a really big thanks for everyone here at LSRTV. You make it worthwhile to go back and watch throughout the week and just relive all the crazy moments that happens every Friday night. And last but not least, Rod Flagg. I was just talking to him just a few moments ago. There's nothing like coming out here and battling it out on Superspeedways every Friday night. And if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be here. So thank you to Rod. And everybody enjoy your Memorial Day weekend next week.
All right. Well, congratulations on your second place finish here tonight, Corey. We'll see you in 2 weeks at Talladega.
All right. Thank you, guys.
All right. He finished his second here tonight. He inches his way a little bit closer to trying to make it into the round of 6. We'll have to wait and see what he does in a couple of weeks at Talladega. Now, Evan Pasoko, you caught up with our third place finisher here tonight. Chris Passini had a wild night. He finishes third here at Daytona.
Yeah, and he was a part of a side-by-side fight with the 7 of Rodney Wofford coming across the line. The difference between first and second was only 3 1,000ths, and the difference between third and fourth was only 4 1,000ths. Trying to see if we can find the driver of the one. Don't have him on the pit lane at the moment. If he does pop in, we'll chat with him before we step aside. What I do have for you is updated championship standings. So obviously with the win tonight, we've got Jason Altman's advancing into the round of 6. As well as with that, we've got Brandon Chaburko, courtesy of the win a week earlier. The drivers in on points, Rodney Wofford, Chris Passini, Mark Jorgensen, and Corey Henry. Henry is in 14 points behind him. Is Shane McKeechin in 7th? Then you've got 19 points out, Andrew Berger. You've got, looks like 24 points out for Paul Servant, 32 points out for Derek Walker, 43 points out for Rod Flagg, and a lot of points out for Frank Basilia. So those drivers, I'd say if you're not McKeechin and Berger, maybe Servant in that mix, you have to be looking at a win. I would say going into Talladega. We'll talk about that in just a moment, though. But I think that overall, tonight was a fantastic race, and those points accurately reflect what we thought. I think Henry did a good night. Second place is good points. It's not that automatic ticket, which is obviously what he would have wanted. But there were a lot of championship guys that got wrecked out of this, and that also reflects in the points.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're going to see these guys, especially at the back half of this top 12 right now, they're going to have to go into Talladega and race for the win. You see Shane McEachin, he's 14 points out as of right now. That's attainable. He can gain those points and get in on points, but it's going to be a lot easier just to go up there and get the victory. Same thing for Andrew Berger, Paul Servant. These guys in the back part of this thing, they're going to have to really be aggressive in a couple of weeks and dig if they want to get up there and get into the round of 6. It's their last opportunity to do it, and I expect we'll see more of the same that we saw tonight. It's going to be a very chaotic race, a couple of big wrecks, and at the end of it, we might see a surprise winner just like we did here tonight.
And we hope that you join us for that one. There's some exciting things coming up for the next couple of days on LSRTV. Not only that, but on iRacing Live, our friends at RaceSpot going to be covering the top split of tomorrow's iRacing Indy 500. We hope you tune in with them for that, and we hope you join us after the fact for our coverage tomorrow night of the United Sim Racing PNC Lawn and Landscaping Truck Series. You can find a full broadcast schedule on our website at www.livesimracing.com. And if you want to keep up to date with us to get a notification every single time we're live and on the air, make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube at youtube.com/C/LSRTV. And you can also keep up to date with us on the socials. Follow us on Twitter at LSRTV and give us a like on Facebook at facebook.com/LSRTV official. Until next time, on behalf of everybody in the entire team at LSRTV, for the folks behind the scenes, and of course for the broadcast crew tonight, for the lovely and talented Cisco Scaramuza, for Brian Macklin, and for myself, Evan Pasocco, I want to thank you so much for tuning in and congratulate Jason Altman's first-time winner in 2017. He is headed to the round of 6. The next race on the calendar is an elimination race. It is in 2 weeks' time, Friday night, right here at LSRTV and iRacing Live. We will see you then from Talladega. Good night.